Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Eureka Conservative Podcast, coming here live from Melbourne. Sorry for being on a minute late, but just finishing up a little tit for tat I'm having from a One Nation member in West Australia, of all places, because I had the audacity to say, when are we going to find out about One Nation leaders, candidates, potential treasurers, cabinet ministers here in Victoria? Unless you've been living under a rock, us Victorians are desperate for a change. We're sick of the LNP, we're sick of the ALP, and for that reason, despite having no leader, no candidates, no information, One Nation is still leading in the polls. And I, like so many other Victorians, want One Nation to do very well at the next election for them, and to send a loud and clear and decisive message to the LNP and ALP in this state. But if it keeps going as it is, with less than 20 weeks to go, we're getting ever closer to the November state election, which I'll come to in a minute. Sadly, I think they're going to miss an opportunity. Now, I might as well keep going. Why have I brought this up? Because I have repeatedly tried to, and they've accepted, but they won't come on. They've gone aground. The One Nation leaders in this state, Bianca, and I won't say her surname because I'll muck it up. Sorry, Bianca, if you're watching, and Warren Pickering, to come on to this program and just tell us what the hell's going on. If you're like me, you want One Nation to be successful this election, whether they can win it or whether they can help form a coalition, an alliance. I won't say coalition because there already is a coalition in this state, so we can get better government. Now, that's not going to happen if we don't start seeing, sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. If we don't start seeing our candidates, if we don't start seeing policy, and federal policy is different to Bianca Colicchio. I hope I'm saying that right, Bianca. And I want Bianca and Warren to come on and talk to me. I am a conservative. I'm a conservative who wants the best for this state. I want the best for One Nation. I'm sick of the Liberals. I'm sick of the ALP. And I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of others like me. And the polls are reflecting that. And if we could get some policy and a dynamic leader like they did with Cory Bernardi in South Australia, and I keep hearing, oh, we're overwhelmed with quality candidates and all this. Well, sorry, let's call a spade, because Victoria is in dire straits. So whether you're a politician who wants to get elected, don't cry to me because I'm asking questions. Come on my podcast, talk to me. And this is to you, whoever you are. No, I won't dox him. I'll invite him like I do with everyone else. But he knows who he is if he's watching. Who's having a crack at me now. If you want to be the next government of Australia, Victoria, if you want your candidates to be successful and get seats in our parliament, you've got to tell us about your policies, who your candidates are, what you're about to do, how you're going to change this state, what's going on. Now, I don't trust the Liberals. I don't trust the ALP. And like I said to one reply on this, and it's fine for us to question One Nation, just like it's fine for us to question the Libertarians, Jared Rennick's People First parties, ALP, the Greens, the Teals. They're politicians who want our votes to make it in the government. We should be asking questions. And I want One Nation to be successful, but I'm still going to ask questions. And they should welcome it as a political party. Don't we need transparency around this? So, for example, what's their policy? And I can assume what their policy is on this second bit of parliament for the treaty. Are they going to get rid of that? Are they going to keep it? There's a lot of issues facing Melbourne. What are they going to do about our exploding debt? What are they going to do about the big build policy? You know, it can't be just a federally aligned. At the moment, what we're getting from One Nation in Victoria is it'll be okay. We've got Pauline. Pauline is a federal politician. She deals predominantly with federal issues, not state ones. Victoria has a unique set of state issues we've got to address. Our potholes, our roads, what's going on there? You know, the culls that we're doing in the native lands of the Brumbies. All right, the recent koala ones, we're going to keep seeing those. Are they going to be different? What are we doing with our gas reserves in Bass Strait? What do you do with our coal mines and our coal reserves in Gippsland? There's so much. What are we doing with these renewable towers that are going through farmland in the Wimmera? How are we going to revive Melbourne and get our city back? It's a disaster in our city. How are we going to get jobs and businesses back in the city? There's issue after issue after issue. How are we going to deal with the crime? The machete-wielding immigrants, the Middle Eastern gangs that are blowing up cigarette shops and all sorts of things. I mean, the other week, we're looking like Mogadishu. So I really just get pissed off, which you probably can tell by my voice, by people who go in and, why don't you get off your ass doing something? I am. I get on here 2-3 times a week. I have my opinion. I bring other people in. I've talked to Malcolm Roberts. I've talked to Scott Challen. I've talked to Jordan Ditloff. I've talked to a bunch of people over the journey about issues confronting us. This is how we get to the bottom of our issues. If you want to be a candidate, if you want to get into our parliaments, if you want to influence us for the next 4 years, tell us who you are and what you think and how you're going to change things. This is the problem with politics in this country. Albo gets voted in, and what's he do? He lies to us and says doesn't mention about negative gearing. In fact, sorry, he does. He commits he's not going to do anything, and then a year in, here he is, just over a year in, he's brought in changes to negative gearing. It's beyond belief, the amount of lies and they think they can lie and get away with it. This is the problem with our politicians. I'm hoping One Nation is different. I'm confident that Pauline and Barnaby could be different, but I'm not going to get sucked into it. I've been sucked in all my life, as plenty of others. You know, there's a lot of us out there looking for some hope, but we don't want to put blind faith anymore into politicians or political parties, whoever they may be. So, you know, if you want that thing, simple solution, come on and have a chat. Malcolm Roberts, to his eternal credit, after I contacted the One Nation office, gave me, I think it was a 2.5-hour interview, and gave up his time. Where are the Victorian representatives of One Nation doing the same? I've asked those two to come on repeatedly. I get no responses anymore. They gave me a commitment to come onto this podcast, and God knows how many others, and discuss things about issues in Victoria. Are they not allowed to come on? Are they controlled by HQ in Queensland or Canberra? I don't know. But it'd be nice for someone from One Nation to come on. We're less than 20 weeks away. You leave this much longer and you'll miss this chance. I do not want One Nation to miss this chance. Trust me, the union movement, now every week we get closer to this state election. The union movement's going to ramp up their attack dogs to start attacking One Nation. And if you've got no candidates, no leader, no cabinet person, who's going to be the treasurer of Victoria? Who's going to be the premier of Victoria from One Nation? Who's going to be your cabinet minister, your minister for transport, your minister for education? I mean, going into government is not a simple job. People want change, but we're not going to give blind change to somebody because we want a change. We've been doing that. We give one lot of Muppets from the LNP a go. They're not doing a good job. So we put the one lot of Muppets from the ALP a go. They're not doing a good job. We just keep switching them. And now it seems there's a number of people within the One Nation Party who think we should be just giving another group of people who could be just as big as Muppets a chance to govern this state again. Victoria needs to get back to being the great state it once was. Melbourne needs to get back to being the great city it once was. Here's your chance, One Nation. Grab it. Because in 4 years' time, that might go. I don't think she will, but if Jess Wilson, for example, falls over the line, because that's all she will do, because she's got too many moderates in her party, but if she falls over and does a half-decent job, people will cope with that. They just want better government. And then One Nation has missed its chance. It'll go down in the polls because they weren't serious enough about this election, and we don't get conservative government. We get Labor light, moderate Liberal government. Yet again, that's not going to change the state enough. So, if you're part of One Nation, if you know some people from One Nation, I want to speak to them. I want to find out what the hell's going on. We need to start getting some answers here in Victoria about candidates, about policy, about who's our potential next premier, who's the next leader. If you've got all these candidates, get on with it then. No one's forcing you into this for politics. I do not want to be in politics. I'd rather be on the outside pissing in than on the inside pissing out. I've got too much else going on in my life to commit to a political one. And I'm too old. I'm not the person you want in there. You want some person with some vision. I can provide you some advice. I saw Pauline Hanson asking for an advisor in an interview, and she asked, of all people, Andrew Bolt, who slags off at her behind her back. I could give Pauline plenty of good advice. I could give whoever's the Victorian leader here plenty of good advice. But I'll tell you what advice I wouldn't give you. Go to the ground and not communicate with people who are behind you. How about we do that? Just silly. So it'll be interesting to see whether he's replied. He doesn't. And the guy who having a crack at me is a One Nation member from all states, West Australia. I mean, West Australia, it's like honestly, it's like another part of the country. Great Aussies, good on them. But just remember, the only reason you're any better than Victoria is because you have the mining industry in your pocket. It's been funding your state for years. They can waste money and you got more money pouring in. Other states don't have the resources you have. So be grateful for what you've got and don't judge others because you've got the golden money train from the mining industry. You've got the same arseholes in charge of your state in the ALP, and not only in charge, but, you've got no opposition to the ALP in West Australia. At least there's some semblance, if you're going by the polls, of a desire for change in Victoria. If you just count the centre-right party vote, the polling, they should smash it at the next election. But I tell you what will work against that is a lack of candidates and One Nation leaving itself open for the obvious attacks of where's your candidates for the cabinet, where's your policy, how are you going to change this around? And if I'm in the union movement now, I'm saying they're not interested in Victoria. They're more interested with Canberra and Queensland. And right now that would be a valid attack. So if you want One Nation, and I want One Nation to do really well in November so we can start changing this state around, at worst case, get a balance of power in the Senate because all the other minor parties seem to have given up in Victoria. So, I'll go with anyone that is legitimate about changing things. But, there's also a person, for example, like David Limbrick, who I think is a man of integrity that I also like to see stay in the upper house. So I'll invite him on. We'll see if we can have a conversation. I'm not too sure where the Libertarian Party, for example, is at the moment. Has anybody else heard from the Libertarians for 12 months? I haven't. And they were doing some strong, legitimate work, especially in Victoria, through Jordan Ditloff and David for quite a while there. I don't know what's happened to it. Maybe they lost the resources. Maybe they've gone on to their own careers. I know that might have happened with Jordan. He's in the legal career now. And to be honest, if they're not getting support, fair enough. But don't have a crack at people like me who are trying to pump up the tyres of One Nation because you can't tell us what the hell you're up to. If you expect Victorians just to vote for One Nation, listen, there's a chance they will. That's not going to turn this state around. The last by-election in Flinders, we got all assured that you had this wealth of candidates and how great they were, and we're going to get a good one. Let me be blunt. The candidate you put up for that Flinders by-election cost you that election. He might be the nicest guy on the planet. Not everyone can speak well publicly or in front of a crowd. He could not speak to journalists. He could not speak well publicly. Apparently, he's going to be a candidate again, and you're all putting him up on a pedestal. If that's your standard of candidates, that is not going to change this state. So, I'm concerned about my state. I was born in Victoria. I've lived in Melbourne for 40 years. It was once a great state, a great city. It still could be. My concern for my home state, for my home city, is to get it back to what she was before my time's up. And before some arsehole gets on social media and says, what's she done? Come and walk a mile in my shoes every week. I do more for my community, my state, and my locals than most people would do in their lifetime. I do that in a year. Every single day of every single week, I'm serving my community and my people in Melbourne. So if you want to have a crack at me from West Australia, come and have a crack. Or here's what you could do if you remember. If you got any influence, get some Victorian people on here to come and have a chat to me in my podcast. So, yeah, and I'm saying that because, again, I want One Nation to be successful in November. How you think that's going to happen? Simply because you got good poll numbers now. What happens when we get into the campaign? Who's going to be your leader in the leaders' debates? Are you going to get a leader in the leaders' debates? How do they have any credibility if we don't know who they are or it's some random? We definitely need someone who's not a random to be the leader of One Nation. And you need a legitimate person to be our treasurer. Our books are a disaster. We need someone who knows how to manage an economy and to turn things around. We need a serious person for that job, just that one job alone. So, people are saying, oh, well, we're just going to get good people because the old politicians and all that. Yeah, I want good people in, but you can't just put a random person in charge of the state's treasury. You've got to have someone that's got some idea, whether a corporate person, whether a former politician, whatever. You've got to have someone that can keep the ground running on our books. We are a disaster zone in Victoria. Now, Kennett showed you can change that around, but he had Alan Stockdale as his treasurer, one of the best, not one of the best, the best treasurer I've ever seen, that knew his stuff and in the background changed his state. That's exactly who One Nation needs. Do they have that person? Now, if you're not being serious, okay, then just realise that you're a minor party, but you could form a coalition to support the Liberals to maybe pull them back to some conservative policy. I mean, we've got to have something better this election. And if you can't do it, just say you can't do it. It feels like there's a bluff going on. We're leading the polls. Just vote for us because you hate the major parties. And sadly, I think a lot of people will do that. They won't research their candidates. I research my candidates. I research policy. I research who the people are going to be going to put their hands up. Whether that's Liberal, whether that's ALP, whether that's Green. Don't have to put a lot of time in the ALP or Greens. But I still want to know. So, excuse me while I have my coffee. T-Rex, a big cup. A little tribute to, what's his name who died this week from Jurassic Park? Oh, God. Sam Neill. Good man. Didn't agree with all his politics, but he was a good man. He was a good, decent person. So, anyway, that's just my comment on that. I've also got, and look, last week, if you tuned in with me, I had a bit of a beef, and I've still got my beef about that Melbourne welcomes Modi thing in. I'm going to show you something a little bit later in the program that's pissing me off just as much, actually. And I've been really keen. If you watched us on Friday, we got a massive response on Friday. If you listened into our podcast on Friday, Ben from Australian Talk, he wanted to find out who I want to interview on this podcast. And two of the guys I do want to interview, if they're up for it, is Avi and Rukshan. Now, Rukshan, to his credit, and I'll keep pushing this, said he would come on when he has time. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later. I like Rukshan. He probably doesn't like everything I say. He's actually said that, but that's fine. I'm a big boy. But I'd like to get him on so we can talk and find out what we both agree and disagree on. And there's a few questions I have for him. There's a lot of questions I have for Avi. And I like Avi too. I think Avi does a lot of good work. What I didn't like from Avi and Rukshan today, and they'll argue they're just covering it, unless you've been living under a rock, and some of you may be with American politics, a guy called Lindsey Graham died this week. Now, there's been a lot on social media celebrating his death, which I think is distasteful. I don't think anybody, and I don't do this when an ALP politician dies or whatever. Mum always taught me you never disrespect the dead. Now, I stick to that as much as I possibly can. I'm not going to say I may have slipped on it. I may have once or twice. But overall, I stand by that ethic, if you want to call it that. So Lindsey Graham died, and I understand why people don't like Lindsey Graham. He was a bit of a neocon. He certainly was a warmonger. He seemed to like it all, but he did spend 30 years in the American military. And if you actually read up his background, this is where I will give Lindsey Graham credit that a lot of you wouldn't know, is unlike a lot of the American politicians and the Australian ones, he didn't go into government to fleece the taxpayer and line his own pockets. Other politicians in America's Congress that has been in as long as him, they've all made this amazing amount of money. Lindsey Graham never made that, okay? In fact, he's ranked about 300th in wealth for congressman. Now, he's been in that Congress a long time. If you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who portrays herself as America First, she had this exponential growth in her personal wealth. A bit like, what's her name, that silly idiot that Pelosi, who used to be the speaker, magically became, a multi-millionaire 100 times over on a congressman's wage. How does that happen? You see it happening over here in Australia with our politicians. So Lindsey Graham, to his credit, didn't participate in that. He still made some money, which is fine, but nothing. He was worth about under $2 million for a congressman. That's pretty. Who's been in their government for a while? That's pretty small. Okay, so he obviously wasn't in there for. He wasn't in it for those reasons, if that makes sense. So for that, I give him credit. But he was a warmonger. And he wanted to go in and bomb the shit out of people. And he would say things like, well, we've killed a lot of Russians. That's a good thing. I don't think killing anyone is a good thing. Sometimes, yes, it's necessary, but I don't think it's a good thing. So that's certainly something that shouldn't be, glorified or whatever. But he's dead. He's died. That's always sad when someone passes, and he passed suddenly. So that's a sad thing for his family. And he and his sister their parents died young, and he was an orphan who raised his sister. I've only found these things out recently. So for a man that was demonized a lot, he did a lot of good too in his life. So you shouldn't demonize it. But at the same time, he's an American politician. So today they're doing a vigil outside the American consulate or whatever for Lindsey Graham. And I'm going, why? We've just had the Melbourne Welcomes Modi event. Now, this was nothing like that, all right? But you've got a bunch of Iranian supporters, Israeli supporters. You've got American flags. I think I could see one Australian flag. You've got an American flag, an Israeli flag, the old Iranian flag. They're singing the Iranian national anthem. I only assume because I kept logging in back to it for 10 minutes. Avi had it up. I'm assuming they sang the Israeli national anthem as well. I'm not too sure. But we're in Australia. We're in Australia. Now, I think it's a sad thing that he's passed. I think they can do all their vigils and, obituaries over in America. I totally get that. He's not an Australian politician. Why are we having a vigil for Lindsey Graham, who really had zero impact on Australia? Yes, he had an impact with Iranians and Israelis. I get all that, but not Australians. Today it was brought up that Australia is going to have a cricket game, a national cricket game on Australia Day. Now, it's been a bit of a controversy because there hasn't been. Cricket is our national sport, but Australia Day hasn't had a cricket game on the national day for a while because they're all too woke. So now some hero at Cricket Australia has decided, well, we're going to have a game on Australia Day, but due to concerns with diversity and all this bullshit, we're not going to have the Australian national anthem. It could offend people. What? So we can sing the Indian national anthem last week. We can sing the Iranian national anthem this week. We can wave those countries' flags, but we can't celebrate our flag, our national anthem, our country, our history because we're worried about offending someone while our national sport is being played. I mean, seriously, what are we doing here? Why is it such a bad thing to celebrate being Australian? And yes, it's pissing me off at the moment. Two events in a row. We don't have vigils for overseas politicians when they die. We have vigils maybe for an Australian politician, but I'd argue there's plenty of Australian politicians when they die in the back of our brain we're going, well, good riddance. We're not going to have a vigil for them. except their fellow politicians maybe, who just love waxing lyrical when someone passes away because it seems to build them up. Why would we have a vigil for a United States politician? Unless he's the president, maybe. I can understand, for example, with the Queen, when she passed away, there would be vigils. She was the head of state. We grew up with the Queen. We are part of the Commonwealth. I would still argue we wouldn't do that for a United Kingdom Prime Minister, a UK Prime Minister. So all of this has just got me. We've got to get back to being. There's a lot of commentary about Australia first, which I get. But if we're going to be Australia first, be Australia first. If I'm being ultra critical, even the groypers or the Australian First Movement who like to do it, how much time do they spend speaking on Israel? It's an awful bloody lot. If we're going to be Australia first, be Australia first, which is why I raised up One Nation of their candidates. Now, I want to know who their candidates are. I want to be Victoria first. I want to be Australia first. I want to be going through that. How many? I really want to know from every political party, what is the makeup of your candidates? After last week's Melbourne welcomes Modi, how many candidates are going to be from an Indian background? How many are going to be from a Chinese background? People will say, oh, that's not important. Well, I'm saying right now, yes, it is. And am I saying, no, they can't be a candidate? No. But I want to know what every candidate with an overseas background needs to face some scrutiny on whether they're Australian first or whether they'll deal with India first. I mean, for God's sakes, this week we are selling our uranium to India while we can't use it. What's the reason? They say, oh, climate change and we've got to save the world. Well, India's going to burn a lot more of our coal and uranium than we would. They would burn a lot more of it in a week than we would in a year. So how does that solve that problem? They're not even part of the nuclear proliferation. I can't say that word. The new nuclear proliferation treaty. So they're governments that have signed off that they're not going to put their uranium and expand their nuclear arsenals. They're not part of that. And all our current idiot governments are saying, oh, well, we can trust them. They've signed a letter. They won't use our uranium. But as even Patricia Caval has pointed out, I can't remember the idiot's name, one of the ALP ministers, but they're using our uranium for their domestic purposes. That means the Indian uranium that was being used for that now can be used for their military purposes. So what guarantees you have that won't happen? You've got none. So why aren't we using our uranium for our energy needs, for our military purposes? Why aren't we developing a nuclear industry? Why aren't we developing nuclear military defense capabilities? So, when China or Iran or wherever it is might want to consider invading this country, they know they're going to get a bloody nose because we've got a nuclear arsenal. Good on Israel. They've got theirs. Why don't we have ours? Israel has 10 million people. We have 28 million. Israel does not have the resources we have, but they can actually have a nuclear arsenal. Why do we not have a nuclear arsenal? I mean, it's ridiculous that we don't. We have deserts that we could put our silos, our nuclear silos in, and if any country dared to try and invade us, we can wipe them out. Why does India have that capability? Why does Pakistan have that capability? Why does Israel have that capability, but we don't? Why do a host of European countries have that capability, but we don't? We need it. We're an island nation. We cannot, look, our military cannot defend our nation if a serious threat came in. If we had a nuclear aspect to our military, we have a chance. But no, we're sending it overseas so they can use our uranium to prop up their military. It's nuts. Sorry, guys. Got to have my coffee. And I'm going to bang on about one thing. I actually am absolutely convinced now there is only one way to get Australia back to what it was. One, it has to embrace its Christian roots. Now, everybody, there was a bit of talk today about the Australian flag with the Union Jack inside because Sam Neill died and he had the audacity to wear an Australian flag with the Indigenous flag in the top corner. Now, the Australian flag as it is quite beautiful now. And people will argue we can't have the Union Jack in our flag, that thing over there. I'm just wondering how many people understand what that Union Jack represents. Because believe it or not, yes, it does represent the United Kingdom. But what is behind the design? I think a lot of people will be quite surprised to find it's more about a Christian history than it is even about an England history. So we'll get something up here on that. Sorry, the turbulent history of the Union flag. I want to show you something. Now, you might already know this, but there might be others here that don't. And we've got to get back to this sort of thing in our culture, in our background. That's my personal belief. So this is the history of the Union flag. History of the Union flag, the Stuart crown, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully we can get this up. So that's the chosen design was this. If you see the red cross, there's a white cross there. There's actually 3 lots of crosses. The red cross, as it says here, commonly called St. George, his cross of old time has been used. This is how they come through it. All right? Let's see if I can. Oh, it doesn't have it there. Damn. There's some good ones here that, let's see, turbulent. I won't go BBC. History of the Union Jack videos. That's 11 minutes, 8 minutes if there's a shorter one. Let's see what this guy says. Sorry.
A short history of the British flag. It's called the Union flag, but it's most commonly known as the Union Jack. The first version was created in 1606 when England and Scotland unified under James I. It combined the red cross of St. George with a white background for England and the white diagonal cross of St. Andrew against a blue background for Scotland. Then in 1801, a new version was created after the Act of Union, which saw Ireland, England, Scotland and Wales all unite. The diagonal red cross of St. Patrick for Ireland was added to the design. But wait, what about Wales? Well, when the first Union flag was created in 1606, the Principality of Wales was already united with England. So the famous Red Dragon of Wales wasn't put on the design. And what a shame that is, because I think it would have looked super cool.
So there,
a short history of the.
So there you go. The Union Jack, that flag there has 3 Christian crosses on it. 3 Christian crosses. It's got more Christian history than it does have English history. But all those align because of the Christian history that's largely intertwined with Anglo-Saxon history, with European history. So that represents far more than the English history. It represents a Christian culture that I think we have lost. And I think we need to get back into it. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian. The fact is, Western civilization was based on Christianity, and the amount of good that it has done through hundreds and hundreds of years is something we should all be celebrating, not degenerating. Denigrating. I'm having a bad day. That's why I had the coffee. But this is where we're going. We've got to find a way out of the malaise that we're in this country and in this state. And I'm going to push again. We need to become a republic, but we need to keep that flag. Why do we need to become a republic? We've got to get rid of the bureaucracies, the way we vote, how we get people into our parliaments. We've got to do something about what is citizenship. I'm actually now increasingly becoming of the point, and I'm a person who's not anti-immigration, but I'm increasingly becoming at the point we have to protect our country from people like, let's say India, let's say Middle Eastern countries, what Burke and Albo are doing, which was acknowledged by the ABC this week, where they bring in immigrants from other countries and they progress them to citizenship as far as they can so they can secure their blocks from their groups to vote for them. It's got nothing to do with what's in the best interest of the country. It is what is in the best interest of their political ambitions. So there's a way we've got to change that where they actually, I think, have to have two sets of ancestry, of Australian ancestry, to become a citizen. So not just their parents, but their grandparents need to be born here. So if they've immigrated before that, they've got to be basically the third generation before they can become a voting citizen. Other countries do this, but you can only do that from significant change. There's significant changes. For example, we've got to identify what is an Australian citizen. What is the Australian culture? What does that Australian culture mean? What does it mean when you come into our country and say you want to become an Australian citizen? There should be things you have to divorce yourself from other countries from whence you came to become an Australian citizen that has the privilege of voting. A lot of these, let's use the Indian ones at the Marvel Stadium last week. They come in, they're here for a while, become permanent residents and become citizens. From my understanding, that takes between 1 to 2 years. I could be wrong on that. But let's say it's 1 to 2 years. So here in this country, 2 years, you've still got loyalty towards India, but you can now vote in Australian elections and vote for a country that is going to favour your countrymen and your politicians from your past country. Now, there's people in India, if you look it up hard enough, that are boasting they're going to send 140 million immigrants our way over the next decade. Well, if that happens, Australia's gone. Why are we allowing that even to be potentially a possibility? The only way you can change this is to change our constitution, to make us become a republic, Australian Christian republic, and to make sure no matter what our immigration cause is, it is clearly outlined in any constitutional document. And in that constitution, we need a Bill of Rights that outlines our free speech. So government just can't shut you down because you object to them or you have criticism of them. You know, we've become so petty and so thin-skinned in this country that people have lost the ability to take criticism. I get criticism every week. You know, toughen up. That's what my parents and my uncles and all that who went through World War II and the Great Depression used to say to us growing as kids. You know, sticks and stones can't break your bone. Toughen up. You're not born in the right body. Toughen up. Be a man. Be a woman. Don't try and change it all. That's the hand you've been dealt. Toughen up. Deal with it. I mean, we've got to get a lot more resilience in our country. If you immigrate to this country and it's not like your last one, bad luck. Toughen up. Become an Aussie. Don't bring your bullshit here. Let's stop waving other countries' flags in our country. Let's stop glorifying other politicians in our country. Let's stop holding vigils for people who aren't even Australian in our country or have a connection to Australia in our country. Let's stop singing the national anthems of other countries on our Melbourne streets and in our Melbourne venues or in any other Australian street or venue. Let's start actually putting our flag, putting our way of life up where it belongs on a pedestal, because being Australian was one of the greatest gifts you'd be given by humanity. Being born in this country was the golden ticket. It's not the golden ticket anymore, and it's increasingly being diluted as we go on. So, yeah, I'm a bit pissed off with what the guy from One Nation said to me. I think it's a legitimate right of every Australian to say to One Nation and every other political party, who are your candidates, what's your leadership, what's your policies? What direction are you taking this country in? Now, I'm confident that One Nation under Pauline Hanson can take us that direction. But to Pauline and to One Nation, you can't be just a one-person party, which is you're going to get that criticism. And until you can get those leaderships, what you did with Cory Bernardi in South Australia was great. We need another leader now in Victoria. Now, I don't know who that leader is going to be, but you guys are the ones in control of that. Apparently, you got a wealth of candidates. You're being overwhelmed. Great. Find the best one and put him or her as your leader. Get him out there now. Time's running out. The guy today said, well, give us time. We're less than 20 weeks away. In the political cycle, that's a week. You know, you got to have people that are fronting up to the media, that are having press conferences, that are challenging Jess Wilson and, what's her name, Jacinta Allen. You know, we need our version of Pauline Hanson in Victoria taking on the leadership, just like Pauline Hanson is taking on Angus Taylor and Albo and rising in the polls. We need that leader. And this is where the minor parties fall down. I think this is one of the big reasons the Libertarians are where they should be. They never had a national leader. They never had a state leader. They should have. I would have had David Limbrick as your state leader or potentially your federal leader. We need a leader, whether you like it or not. Yes, we vote for the parties, but those parties are defined by their leadership. And if there wasn't, why do we always have these leadership challenges and changes? When we go to the ballot box, we're looking, who do we trust in the leadership of that party? All right, so I've got Ben. So, oh, mate, Ben. I've got to get Ben on. We got a few ones in the chat. So the leadership defines where we're going as a party. And we, as citizens of this country, need that. Hold on, Ben. I'll be with you in a tick. He needs a link to get in. Just choose the invite link. Copy link address. All right, so Ben from Australia Talk wants to join us. So Benny just sent it to you. So hopefully you got that. I'll have to exchange mobile numbers. So Ben's always good value. Love getting Benny on here. So I'm going to make sure we don't go as long. Got a big day tomorrow. So me and Ben can talk for hours. We got to reduce that down if we can. So, yeah, that's pretty much the end of that rant part of it. But One Nation, get your act together in Victoria. We want to get behind you. Please, just get your act together. We need something to rally behind for this state, for this country. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of people on social media go, who cares about Victoria? Well, Victoria, that's ground zero. This is where all the socialists are trying to turn Australia into that Marxist, Fabian social cult. It's where they develop all their leadership. If we're going to push back against that, it's actually in Victoria. You got to push back at ground zero, because that's what is building all these nutters. They're getting into our bureaucracies, into our legal system, into our education system, and it's not going to be a one election fight. This is a 2-decade fight. I'm too old. I might be not here at the end of the fight, but I can be here at the start of it and then pass the baton on to the young ones like Ben. Now, if we don't start doing some stuff about this, the country and this state are in a lot of trouble, And I don't understand why people don't understand this. And if you're a politician, let's just say sometimes in life it gives you opportunities. One Nation is just staring at the biggest opportunity you'll ever see. All right, guys. Oh. I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully Ben's got it. Ben, I sent you a message in your chat. Hopefully you got it with the link. Oh, okay. Hold on, mate. I'll get you another link. Apparently that's the wrong link. Copy invite. Oh, always fun when you're in technology. I should be better. Hold on, Ben, coming. All right, Ben just sent you another link. Try that one, mate. So, yeah, that is my rant. We'll get to see what Ben's got to say for this week. No policy, though I am going to refer to other policies. And here we go. We've got him. G'day, Ben.
I think I got you now, Bob.
I think you have. Have you got me in the background? Can you hear me all right?
Hold up. I've got you're muted for me at the moment, mate. So
I'm
might
muted.
just be something at my end.
Okay. Got to get that figured out. Got to get my glasses on now, Ben.
No, I haven't got for some reason.
You haven't got me? Yeah, you're good at my end. You're good at my end. You should be good. Yeah, I'll try. Hold on. What about now? You got me?
I haven't got you.
I can hear you.
The mic. Give me a second.
All right, mate. He's got his Australia First hat on. Like it. We'll get Benny in here. We'll pump it up again. Sorry, guys.
Okay, Bob, can you hear me now, Bob?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, I can't see or hear you now. I can see you.
Mate. I'll figure it out. I'll try to get things sorted from my end for you. Just bear with me.
Oh, what's this saying? Default. Oh, that's fine. Sorry, guys. I'll keep talking while Ben's sorting it out from his end.
You should be able to hear me.
I can hear you. We'll get this going, guys. Buddy. Buddy. Sorry, guys. Just give us a tick while we sort this out. My goodness. Sorry, guys. I just got a reply while Ben's sorting himself out.
Have you got me now, Bob?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, mate.
Oh,
Okay,
good. Now we got it. Hey, mate, you sick and all good to hear me?
Yep, 100%. So all I did is I changed out microphones and a couple other things.
Beautiful. I've been having a bit of a running battle with I want you to read you this just for a laugh. I've been having a bit of a running battle with a guy who's a president of a local branch of One Nation in West Australia. Just listen to what he's just put to me. So we've been going back and forth. He had a crack at me. Why don't I get more involved? And I'm going, how much more involved can I get? But anyway, I'm not going to join a political party over that. But I have my say. I do far more than most, as you would know, mate. But so he's come back to me when I pointed that out, and he goes, well, you'll pardon me, but I have no idea who you are. You're one of these anonymous accounts that disguises their identity and therefore their activities.
You're in disguise now.
I'm in disguise, apparently. I'm involved on the exec at my local branch and have put up my name to lead Senate candidate for West Australia. So, mate, I'm not going to dox him and show everyone he's good on him. He'll hopefully see this. I'll send him a link to the episode. And but I do have to laugh. Apparently, I'm anonymous, mate. I keep my thing and I disguise my activities. I must be the very worst person who's ever done that.
Well, you're not the first and you won't be the last, Bob. I think it would be fair to say you're not the first and won't be the last, mate.
Last one to what? Hide their identity.
Yeah, well, everyone's going to end up in the gulag at some stage if people keep speaking freely, right? But yeah, I think he's dismissing you outright without real merit there, to tell you the truth. You've been out there publicly for some time now. You've been sharing your views.
Mate,
people shouldn't be confused about who you are and what you're up to.
No. Well, I'll tell you what's pissing me off more. I was pissed off last Friday, but I got pissed off again. And my mates, Harvey and Rukshan, they're, again, welcome to come on my program. You might have heard this while I was talking. But here they are again outside the American consulate having a vigil for Lindsey Graham, of all people. Now, I don't mind. You shouldn't speak ill of the dead. But I also understand why people don't like Lindsey Graham. But I don't even care if you like him, love him, hate him. Pardon my French, what the fuck are we doing singing national anthems of another country, waving a country's other flags, which was the Iranian and Israel flags? I understand the issues. There was an Aussie flag there. There was an American flag there. But they're singing the national anthems of other countries for a US politician who died overseas, who probably doesn't even know where Melbourne is. Have you ever seen Lindsey Graham ever come and visit Australia? And I'm just sick of it. I'm sick. We live in a country now. We've got a vigil for a US politician on the same day that we've been told for Australia Day next year, people who go to the cricket can't. They're not going to have the Australian national anthem. I'm going, what sort of country are we listening in? And if I'm going to go to the gulag for expressing that bloody opinion, then we have some serious issues in this country. And when we're less than 20 weeks out from an election in my state, and 20 weeks is nothing in politics, we don't know one single candidate. We don't know who the leader is. We don't know their policies. I want one nation to be successful. But what has definitely happened in Australian politics, if you vote in one pack of Muppets to replace another pack of Muppets, nothing gets fixed. So who are the people we want to be? They're leading in the polls with nothing. Could you imagine if they had legitimate candidates and policies, what they would be leading by now? And it's a bit frustrating to put that up, which was a pretty fair point. That's why you responded to me. And all I got, we've got all these people, just give us time. I'm going, you don't have time. You're 20 weeks out, less than. The election's going to be called soon. We don't even know who the leader of one nation in this state is. They need to get someone up and going, they could win this thing. They could win this election in Victoria if they had who's our treasurer? Who is our minister for education? Who's going to be the minister for transport? Who's going to be the police minister with the crime that's going apeshit in our city and our state? Who are these people? You just can't, and they say, oh, we're going to get good people, not like the ones we've got. You can't just have any random. I can't go into the police minister's job and do it. I wouldn't have the first idea. You've got to have someone with a policing background who's a hard ass that can crack down on crime. And then you've got to have the people in the legislative area who can give him judges and magistrates that will send people to frickin' prison instead of putting them back on the streets. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. But who do we have? We've got no one. But we've got big rallies in Marvel Stadium. We've got big rallies outside the American consulate about people who've got nothing to do with this country, this state, or this bloody city. And if I don't understand why more people aren't as pissed off as me, and as you know, Ben, until this last week, I don't really usually get that pissed off. But I'm getting more pissed off the more I see it. And I'd like to see Harvey and Rukshan, why are they down there televising this thing for Lindsey Graham? What's that all about? What is that all about? Is that an Australian issue or is that an American issue or is that an Israeli issue? And I've got my sympathies, absolutely. But we live in bloody Australia. We're not involved in that war over there. Why are we? If it was Donald Trump, okay, I can understand people being upset about it. All right, even Marco Rubio but this was just a congressman. Marco Rubio and what's his name, the other, J.D. Vance, have they been to Australia? Have they set foot on Australian soil in their entire political careers? Has Donald Trump?
No, not yet. They have not.
So why aren't we dealing with bloody Australian issues? We've got people sleeping under bridges. I drove past Coles last night and there's a lady with a trolley all rugged up in the bloody Melbourne's cold in the winter, mate. Mm-hmm. And she's rugged up to the nines. A homeless person sitting in there. We should be getting that poor woman off the streets and in somewhere where she's not going to freeze to death because she can't sleep anywhere. But we can't move anyone on because that's now against the law. Police can't. Years ago, they used to move that person on and get them off to the salvos or get them some comfort. You're not allowed to do it anymore. But we've got issues. We've got potholes. We've got bloody crime issues. We've got education issues. I don't know whether you saw the stupid bitch that was speaking on behalf of the Victorian Education Union this week. I mean, my God, that she's a teacher.
The socialist.
Yeah. Banging on and swearing. And I can't be critical. I've been swearing a lot lately. But, mate, it's just all of this does my head in, and I'm increasingly now getting to the point. And I don't get a lot of support on this, but I'm going to start banging on it. We got to become a republic, an Australian republic with Christian values that embraces our past history, not change the flag. I just had a bit of you might have missed it. I was telling everyone that reasons behind the Union Jack, it's got nothing to do with colonialism. It's all to do with Christianity and Western cultures. There's 3 Christian crosses on that Union Jack. I bet you most Australians don't even freaking know that. It's bad because colonialism. I mean, do you even know any historical facts? It's just does my head in that people aren't talking about this shit. But we can put an American flag on the bloody footpath and celebrate an American politician that just died. I mean, this is the same day. Love him or hate him, Sam Neill, I don't agree with his politics, but I think he was a decent person. He was an Aussie that performed and succeeded in one of the hardest environments you possibly can. He passed away today. He was a good man. I don't agree with his politics, but he was a good, decent Aussie. Why are we having a vigil for Sam Neill? Why are we having a vigil for Lindsey Graham? Now, I know what you're going to tell me, and I know the answer to that, but it just shits me.
Wait, okay, hold up. What was I going to tell you?
Yeah, my guess. I shouldn't say no. I should say no.
That's okay. Yeah, what's your best guess?
I think because Lindsey Graham supported Israel and was ready to go against that, and he's a Zionist and all that sort of shit. That's why Harvey's pushing that.
Well, no, those things are true, certainly, which is why, obviously, Harvey would lend favourability towards him. But in regards to...
I have no issue with that. I have no issue with that, by the way. What I have issue with is we're doing a vigil on our soil, in our city, on our streets.
Damn straight.
You can support Lindsey Graham all you like, but he's not an Aussie.
It's not Australia first, is it? It's not Australia first.
And I hope this doesn't happen. All right?
They hope to monetize it, Bob. They hope to monetize it, and they want to draw American eyes onto their live stream, and in a way, virtue signal. Now, obviously, 99 people out of 100 in this country, or even close to 99.9 people out of 100 in this country, have got no idea who this guy is. They certainly haven't followed him. They don't know about his storied past or what he's been involved with previously.
Your mic's a bit loud, buddy.
Okay, I'll bring it down. There we go. It should be okay now.
Okay, yeah, cool.
It'll gradually come on down. Lindsey Graham. Donald Trump wasn't the biggest fan of Lindsey Graham. There's the infamous segment of Lindsey Graham.
And Lindsey Graham wasn't the biggest fan of Donald Trump either.
Of course not. But more importantly, in the United States, for people on the right, are they holding vigils for Lindsey Graham? They are not. Lindsey Graham wasn't in lockstep alignment with a lot of the things Donald Trump was trying to do. He was always making side deals. Certain votes, he should have been in alignment with Trump to advance the agenda of MAGA 1.0. Yeah. And he didn't do so. He's been there in his role for many years. There have been incumbents that have come up against him, and unfortunately, they have not defeated him. There's a whole series of speculation around what actually took place, how he came to meet his maker, and all those things. But yeah, Avi and Rukshan are simply doing it for clicks.
Okay.
I wouldn't think that it was inspired by Rukshan. I don't think Rukshan actually gives too much of a damn about Lindsey Graham of all people.
So where are they getting their clicks from? America?
Yeah. That's exactly. It's so they can say, look, we stood up for this guy, but that also ties into explicitly Lindsey's favorability towards supporting Israel, to arming Israel. Also, Lindsey Graham was intricately involved with providing funds and weaponry to Mr. Zelensky, 100%. And
as
so,
John McCain. All of that's fine. You're an American politician. You're responsible to American taxpayers for the money you're spending on all your wars, which you always start. And look, some of their wars I support, some of them I don't. I wasn't big on the Ukraine thing. Whatever. It wasn't an American war. It wasn't an Australian war. But that's fine. That's an American issue. I want to know about Australian bloody issues. I I don't want 30,000 Indians telling me what it is to be Australian. I don't want, and I've got sympathies for them. I do not want previous Iranian citizens who fled their regime to tell me what it is to be Australian, to getting out on my streets. I don't want Palestinian Gazan supporters marching my streets and waving the Palestinian flag and calling anybody else a colonialist. I just don't want it. When is it going to be that we are about Australia issues, being proud to be Australian and making Australian lives better? Every single frickin' day, there's more news coming up that our way of life is diluted. It's getting worse. And bizarrely, I don't know who makes these decisions, but apparently Melbourne is still the top 5 in the most livable cities. I mean, it's a great city. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great city. But if something is not done soon to change our government and the way it's governed, it will not be a great city. Hence why I cracked it a little bit with One Nation. And the only reason I cracked it is I want One Nation to be successful. And the reason I want One Nation to be successful is not because I agree with their entire policy platform. You're never going to agree with any party's entire political platform. But what I do know, if we don't send a message to the established parties in the next 2 or 3 election cycles, this country is in all sorts of drama and trouble. And I think Pauline, she's admitted this a few times, she feels the weight of responsibility on it. Mm-hmm. The last vehicle we've got to do that is One Nation. I don't see the rise in Jared Rennick People Party. I don't see the rise in the Libertarians. I don't see the rise in any other one else coming up to save the day. The only vehicle we've got to save the day is One Nation. Mm-hmm. And God knows if that doesn't happen, what happens after that, which we've talked about previously. But, to save, I actually think Victoria and Melbourne is ground zero. It's ground zero of saving this country. A lot of people wipe off Victoria, say, it's just shit, it's crap down there. Where do you think we get all the socialist Marxist policies that feed the ALP movement? Where is the CFMEU based? Where is actually most hard trade union movements based? They're all based out of bloody Melbourne.
Yep.
If you don't take the fight to where the fight is, you lose the fight. The fight for this country is actually right in Melbourne. And I put this by the One Nation office. I've said this to them, and I've got an idea on the way you can push back against it. But it will take it'll take a decade just to start pushing back. It'll take 2 decades to win it. And I think this is what people don't understand who aren't into politics. We'll just change it at the next election. No, if you're going to vote for a party to get them into government to change things, they need 3 election cycles to change things. You can't just change it that quickly, especially if you don't have the balance of power. Because then it all becomes negotiation, dilution, all this sort of thing, which is a basic core problem with our democracy. You go to an election and say, I'm going to do this, but then you've got to deal with the Teals or the legalized marijuana party and, we want this, so take this out. And by the time it gets through that whole thing, it's just been diluted to the nth degree. And you don't have a policy or legislation that can start changing things. So it takes 3 terms at least. Kennett got 2. He was close to turning the state around. If he got another one, I think he would have seen a different Victoria. Brax and Brumby were pretty good, but not a Kennett. But so the thing is, everyone looks at Kennett. It's not about getting Kennett back in. And the guy you needed back in was Alan Stockdale as treasurer. Yeah. Alan Stockdale was the power behind the throne. If we'd had him for a 3rd term, I think today you would see a different Victoria. But, 3 election cycles after that, we got Daniel frickin' Andrews. And look where that's
So what they need is they need at least 2/3 of what Howard had, for example, to be able to transform. They need half a generation bare minimum, so they need a decade in there. And they've got to then silence or render mute the opposition, because regardless of what the opposition throws at them, the people will be with them going forward. So they can implement a lot of these policies, which don't just take 1 or 2 years to prove beneficial. They do take a course of time. And in the fullness of time, they come into fruition, and therefore things can be done. And this is why Peter Costello was able to take the debt back to 0, et cetera, et cetera. I understand you're very upset about, and rightfully so, many people are asking the questions you are. Who are these people? When are they going to announce themselves? And what are they offering to the people of Victoria if One Nation thinks they're going to ride in on the white horse and save the day? Or at least take advantage of the opportunity afforded to them by the mismanagement of Labor, by the things that Dan Andrews did to people in Victoria, by extension now the dismissal of genuine concerns that Jacinta Allen has on a perpetual basis, and her attitude as well, which is quite blasé, and she's very high and mighty. She thinks she's a bit of a queen. Now,
for what reason, I don't know.
Well, some people are just the power goes to their head, mate. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely it does. And she's all about it. She's had aspirations for a long time. She thinks she looks great on camera and she likes scolding people. If she wasn't a politician, she'd be a headmistress at a school for boys. Right? So she could control everyone who aren't her own sons. So there is an attitude in many politicians that they think they are the determiners of how we should live our lives, and they tell us when we're going wrong. But we're not the ones hacking up people with machetes. They don't like free expression, they don't like individualism, and they'd prefer for people to become collectivist and beholden to whatever their doctrine is. With One Nation, yeah, it's a true question to ask. Who are their candidates? They're allegedly going to be running candidates in every seat in Victoria. Okay, so that means they need dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of candidates. Well, who are they? Okay, so there's an answer to this question, no? But when will they announce who they are so people in their electorates can become familiar with them? Because how are they meant to build a bond with those people and perform some form of community outreach for those people?
Mate, I've been asking Bianca and Warren, who are supposed to be the Victorian leaders.
Yep.
Ever since, you remember that by-election at Flinders they had?
Yeah.
And Pauline came down here and all that sort of thing, which I felt was a bit strange. It was a state election. Get a state leader or state representative to lead that. But good on Pauline. She came down, fair enough. But there was no real state leader. And here's my concern with a lot of the One Nation stuff. And I want One Nation to be successful. But we got told there was this plethora of candidates for the Flinders by-election. Mate, I don't know whether you listened to their candidate, but he couldn't speak in public. He had no fire or brimstone. He sounded like an accountant. He was the most uninspiring person I've seen at a accountant. Apparently he's going to stand again during the state election. I'm going, well, if you've got a plethora of candidates and all these people of high quality, and this is the best person you plucked out, either you don't have that or the people vetting him, how did you vet this guy to think he was the best of the best? I don't want to go into that. I mean, everyone should take their voting seriously, their responsibility. Part of that is to vet yourself, your local candidate. Does this candidate reflect my views? What if we get 6 weeks out, they announce their candidates, and this is going to sound bigoted and racist, which is not at all, but what if 30% of them are Indian?
There you go. So you're answering your own question in many ways. You're asking the question of why haven't they announced certain people?
And
we're unsure of exactly how many there will be, but there will certainly be at least a handful. One would suspect.
Oh, a handful's fine.
Expect.
But after last week,
but aside from that, the larger point, why they're keeping their powder dry. And I'm wearing the orange and blue Nation tonight. So we're trying to somehow get somewhere with them. Now, Pauline's obviously been in the UK doing things over there. Things at central planning with them. So they're not really too fond of people stepping out and doing their own thing without explicit approval from head office. James Ashby... Well, we won't speak about his whereabouts and everything at the moment. Barnaby is doing his best to run around and put out spot fires. But in regards to why are they keeping their powder dry, does it work against them and does it disadvantage them because it leaves people like you extremely frustrated and other people in the electorate? Because you're not alone in this feeling. Believe me, Bob, this is the predominant view held in the minds of people that do wish to vote for One Nation. Pauline is their champion, that is correct, but they need to know who are the people coming up from under her.
I would be approaching a guy. I'll tell you what I'd be approaching. I would be, and he's very conservative. I would be approaching a guy like Tony Shaw. Tony Shaw, if you get onto his feed.
AW football, former Collingwood captain, 313 games for Collingwood.
No, Victorian, Melbourne through and through.
Goes hardcore on X as well. Doesn't muck
absolutely, and he's got similar conservative opinions to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
If I was Pauline, I'd pick up the phone. So Pauline was on the Bolt show the other day asking for advisors. If you really want an advisor, Pauline, here I am for Victoria. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to be a candidate, but I can give you some advice on the people you should approach. And Tony
what do you
Shaw,
think they're offering? What do you think they're offering for their advisors in regards to remuneration?
I don't really give a shit. I would do it for nothing. I
understand. No, I
want my country and city back. So go get Tony Shaw. Get Tony Shaw to come on. Someone who's a real conservative, who's got the profile and could lead this country. Another one I'd approach, and he'd probably say no because of his age, I'd approach Sam Newman. Get Sammy on board. Maybe get Tony Shaw and Sammy. Get people like them that love their state and their city and they want it back. And you've got to get some people with some conservative-based values. They're out there. But they've got to have a passion for this state. Tony Shaw strikes me as that guy. And I'm a Richmond supporter, mate. I hate Collingwood. But Tony Shaw is a man who would come on, I'm sure, would consider it if they approached him. But that's the sort of person. So if he's not going to do it, that's fine. But that's the sort of person they got to get. Imagine if you had a Tony Shaw, and I'm not going to say an Alan Stockdale, but let's say an Alan Stockdale type as your treasurer. If you just had those two locked in, people like me go, well, actually, now they're serious. Okay, instead of getting 27 in the poll, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get 35. And Jess Wilson's going to shit herself, and as is the Liberal Party. They're missing an historical opportunity, not just for One Nation, but for this country to turn this ship around. If I was asking any question, if I had Pauline Hanson in front of me, are you more focused about 2028 or are you more focused about this year's election in Victoria? If she says 2028, then that's the wrong thing.
One leads into the next. The one that's now, that will lead into the next, and that will provide momentum, and it will also demonstrate to the rest of Australia that it's okay to actually vote for them. The whole thing's not going to implode. It won't collapse.
Exactly.
So for your consideration, perhaps, just for your consideration, not perhaps, one of the reasons why they may not have named as yet who the candidate should be, and take on board all of your arguments because they're not wrong, but there are calculations made in politics. I'm not saying they have done this, but let's see if they have made this decision. This is the reason why they haven't volunteered who their candidates are as yet, albeit they should, perhaps. Once again, perhaps, because once they do that, those people are going to be dissected by the opposition and by other political parties and by their apparatchiks within the media and at the ABC. And no one hasn't got some form of skeleton in their own closet.
Of course.
Okay. And so they're already raining on Pauline's parade through X, Y, and Z with a litany of accusations as to why and what she's done and trying to portray them as something.
7 News Spotlight's doing that this Sunday with that Tommy Robinson interview.
That's exactly right.
Already, he's a thug, he's a this, he's that. I love Tommy Robinson. Good on him. Any person like Pauline did and Tommy Robinson that will go to jail for their beliefs, fighting for their fellow citizen, if that can't get you your respect, then there's something wrong.
So do you buy the argument, Bob? Do you buy the argument that this is a strategy of theirs and they don't wish to pollute the well, as it were, by perhaps a bit? And this is the other thing. Are they a large enough organization to somehow be able to scrutinize and dive deep into the identities of people that are going there? Because that's a power of work on its own. It requires a massive staff.
No, I agree. Well, mate, they just got $4 million donated to them.
Yeah.
But,
so you could hire an army of people. You could hire a floor and fill it with the people.
Weeks. Go, put half of that money towards the Victorian state election and get as many candidates you can in Parliament. You might surprise yourself.
You'd have to throw 1.5 at it bare minimum. But are there billboards up in Victoria right now of Pauline pointing a picture of Albo saying "Fire the Liar" or Jacinta Allen and her corruption or anything like that?
No, listen, they might be timing that. Maybe I'm different. I don't know. All the questions you're asking me. So, for example, again, and I'll say this publicly because I've said it in chats and I've said it all this. It's not like I haven't asked them already. The Victorian leadership of the One Nation Party, I've asked to come on my podcast. We could then ask them all these questions. Now, my guess, you could be right. You could be wrong. They might be overwhelmed. And, I do, from what I understand, Bianca and Warren, for example, do this voluntarily. So they have their own businesses and work. But, mate, I have my own company. I find the time to get here on a podcast. I'm open to everyone. It's not that hard to work to spend half an hour on a podcast to explain your position, answering questions.
But why aren't they on salary? Why are they not on salary?
You'd have to ask.
Okay, well, how's an individual meant to make a priority their campaign in a leadership role for a national organisation intent on winning and being successful in elections if they're not able to throw the kitchen sink at it?
Probably the point there would be they're probably keeping their powder dry, so which I understand. Okay, I mean, in this state election.
No. We understand that, Bob. But we're talking about why does he need another job? Why has he still got to earn his bread and butter every week doing something other than focusing solely 100% on that? And why isn't he?
You are asking a question that needs to go to somebody who's behind the One Nation, which is exactly why I'm trying to get him on. Now, if you're here, listen to everything.
Is it an obvious question, though, Bob? Do Liberal and Labor muck around like that, or do they?
No. You got to be fair here, and listen, I've got to be fair to One Nation. They don't have the resources that either the Liberal Party or, especially the ALP do. I mean, the ALP, the trade union, one trade union will employ their people. I mean, when you're in government, how many advisors does Jacinta Allen have, and she still does a shit job? Yeah. I mean, you go through all these. They even make the Liberal Party look poor. So at the moment they're on hiding to nothing. But let's say they don't have the funds. It's all got to be voluntary. Let's just give them that benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Let's just give them that. They've got their jobs, but that's still not a good enough reason to be not getting on podcast. Everyone has work. A lot of people out there are working two jobs.
Yeah, they do.
So if you're going to put your hand up to get into politics, so I'm assuming in this next election, both Bianca and Warren will be putting their hands up for a seat or a Senate spot, right? Well, once they get into Parliament, guess what? You're going to be on an awful lot of money with an awful lot of perks, with an awful lot of privileges. So it's actually well worth the fight. So if you want to do that, but more importantly, you want to change the way this country's going, you've got to put your hand up. History is littered with people that didn't have the resources. You read up on the history, for example, of George Washington and the fight he had against England. They had nothing. When they went across, what's the name of the river they went across? I was watching it. What is it called? When they went across the boats. The Delaware. So when George Washington took his troops across the Delaware, in the middle of winter, a number of his troops, I can't remember what the percentage of, didn't even have shoes. They were walking across frozen roads and in ice with bare feet.
Yeah, they were paupers.
Yes, because they wanted to fight for something that was bigger than them. A lot of them lost their lives. So our history is littered with that sort of sacrifice. So am I saying people have to make that same sacrifice? No. But if you're going to stick your hand up for political office and try and change this country for the better and get the perks that go with this, then you've got to be serious about getting onto podcasts, getting people recruited, doing all this sort of thing to give people like me, like you, like everyone else there, we're screaming out for a legitimate alternative to the major parties. That's what we're screaming out. The reason One Nation vote is at 27 with virtually nothing. I mean, no candidates, no leader, no announcement of policies. They're still leading the polls. Where would they be if right now they had a leader, a proper treasurer, someone who could go into debates, who can handle media? Where would they be now? They would be romping this election in. But because people want change. People in Victoria and Melbourne want change.
I think they can put them on $100,000 retainers each, certainly. I think they've demonstrated most recently through the Fire the Liar campaign. Well, they're able to bring in millions of dollars into the coffers within a number of weeks. And I think if there was a similar type of outreach by Pauline and Barnaby to say, look, we want to secure these positions. We need to fund at least 3 key staff full-timers. One will be the leader, the one will be the underling, and the other one could be the secretary, for example. And we need them to step away and we need them to solely focus on doing the job. And whether or not they're successful or not, we're not sure. But here it is. And they're all going to get $100K right now. And they'll be able to provide expenses for that. And you'll be able to track it in real time as well, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be able to see where your money's spent. And this is what their outgoings are every single week. And of course they have cost of living to deal with as well. So that they would need enough money to be able to provide a roof over their heads, to take care of their families, and to also have a wage and something in the kitty set aside for future things.
Okay. So what's the biggest? What's the biggest excuse that One Nation has at the moment? I got it today. They don't have enough staff. So, like, if you go in and you do really well in this election, let's say they get a third of the seats, they're going to get money for every vote. Once you get to a certain thing, you get money vote.
Yep.
And also, if you get enough members of parliament, you're going to get staff. So all of a sudden, you have a state branch that has funds, has staff, has advisors, and it builds the whole One Nation brand. I mean, I'm like you. I don't understand the strategy behind it. I would like to get Bianca and Warren again. I'll say it out. I'd like to get them on here to explain to me the strategy. Is there something holding them back? Now, the one rumor out there, and I don't know how true it is that the head office of One Nation is very controlling, and it doesn't want people going out there. And it could be for legitimate concerns, what you put out before, that the media will come at them. Well, guess what? The media is going to come at you anyway.
Exactly.
If you hold off until 6 weeks out to an election, the media is going to annihilate you on that. How can you trust them? They didn't even reveal their candidates till 6 weeks out.
But how are they moving the needle between now and election day? And what could they implement that would assist them in moving that needle, like you said, just under 30 and surging past 35?
If they could get someone like, I'll give you an example, because I actually think the Liberal Party federally should put this guy as their deputy leader. But if they could get an Alex Antic type as your leader in Victoria, he can handle the media, super smart, it aligns with the conservative values. I mean, he's arguing more for One Nation now than One Nation people. If you got someone like him as leader of the Victorian Party to become premier, and this is what I'm saying, like with someone like Tony Shaw, but someone who can do all that. I mean, Tony Shaw, for example, he works in the media. Tell me he doesn't understand the media back to front.
He's a polished performer. He'd have unabated access to 3AW, any program 24/7. But you are speaking about something here. Yeah, and all the footy crowd. And if they put him in North Melbourne electorate or Collingwood, Fitzroy, that area, he would give it a real rock and roll.
Red hot shake, wouldn't he?
Well, because those people, they remember Victoria Park, and a lot of them haven't moved on from when Collingwood used to play Victoria Park. But yeah,
he'd be also a legitimate battle as premier. You know, that middle, it's what everyone talks about, that middle. Who are the people screaming out in the electorates across Australia, but especially Melbourne? It is the middle stream, you know. It's if they were successful, if Warren Pickering is the leader of One Nation and Bianca's the number 2, I think that's the way it is. If that was to be true, and if they were able to get up and win a number of seats, does that make Warren premier? Would be premier. But who knows what? Okay, if Warren wants to be premier, but he won't come on a podcast. But outside you and me, who would know who Warren is? You know how I found out Warren was the leader of the One Nation Party in Victoria? There was someone banging on about it once ago, and I just put a post in there, a friendly one, and said, well, who is the leader of One Nation? Who would be the next premier? Warren comes back and said, that would be me. And I said, well, mate, you want to come on the podcast? We exchanged a few chats. He said, yeah, but then I've messaged him. I get nothing back. He's ghosting me now. So, which is fine. He can go ghost me all his life.
He should be doing the rounds though, Bob. He should be making himself familiar with it. And if he thinks, oh, well, you're just a minnow and you aren't Andrew Bolt on Sky News, well, do you know what? He has to perfect his repertoire.
Okay, let Andrew. Anyone on Sky News, I've got the Sky News subscription, the $5 a month. I watch all their opinion shows. I've not seen Warren or Bianca on it.
No,
have you?
Of course not. No,
have you heard them on a podcast?
Paul Murray's not going to invite them on.
Wouldn't help them anyway.
But the point here is, though, they need to. You've got to play in the amateurs before you play in the big leagues, right? So they should be taking advantage of every single opportunity afforded to them by people that aren't as large as a mainstream media organization to get their messaging on point.
They should have been
ensure they can be effective communicators when they have to.
They should have been doing that 6 months ago.
Well, I don't think anyone, including themselves, would be in disagreement with that.
Well, okay.
Trying to play catch up after the fact is quite difficult.
Then explain. Did you watch much of the by-election down here?
I saw parts of it. Yeah, I did.
Who is the most, outside Pauline Hanson, who is the most obvious spruiker of One Nation in that by-election?
Avi Yemeni.
Absolutely. Now, tell me if you feel I'm wrong, and this is not a criticism of Avi, I'm just saying fact. Is Avi going to attract One Nation in Victoria more votes, or is he going to cost them votes?
Avi is costing One Nation votes every single day of the week, and the closer proximity Pauline allows him to have to herself and photo opportunities and front and center and one-on-one time for his show to be grandiose about it and to be her best mate and always throw her arm around and always be front and center and to be right there with her, that's actually doing harm to her.
And, mate, I agree. And here's where, if you had a decent Victorian advisor, they'd pick up the phone or they'd have a conversation with Pauline and say, Pauline, listen, Avi might be the greatest mate you've got. He might be the greatest friend. I've said a number of times now, I've got respect for Avi. I think he's done some decent things. But if you want to win government in Victoria, to have him that close, and he basically in every interview, and here's the problem. If I'm just an independent voter, I don't know who I'm voting for. I'm thinking about Pauline Hanson, but then I watched some of those press conferences. Mate, they were cringe. The reporters would ask a question. Yeah, they're coming for Pauline. Pauline can handle herself. She doesn't need a protector. But here's Avi on the side, being that protector, having a crack at those journalists. Avi's not a journalist. He's never gone to journalist school. He's not one of them. But Pauline doesn't need him to be a protector. Avi's going on and being the protector and doing all this stuff. And people, I know a lot of people, not because of Avi's view on his rail or Zionism, they just don't like it because they want to see their politicians get questions. And how can they make a judgment about whether their politician's effective or not effective if they've got this guy standing over their shoulder and Avi playing protectorate? It just doesn't work. You've got to get to a point, even I think as a political leader, and yeah, you're going to get burnt by it, but you've got to have some faith in your candidates so they can hold their own. And if they don't hold their own, okay, you're going to have to let them go.
Sink or swim.
Exactly. You can't be going into this next election with phantom candidates that no one's ever heard of that won't front up to a press conference because the bloody Labor union, the union movement, is going to tear them to shreds. It's just, I've seen it happen so many times. Look at the Liberal Party. It happens every single election. Someone says something stupid. It's happening now. Why are the Liberals in so much trouble? Because they won't come to the obvious fact that stares them in the face that the Conservatives and moderates can no longer sit under the one tent. And until the Conservative faction of the Liberal Party splits away from the moderate faction, they're always going to be in trouble. You had Angus Taylor, for example, and Tony Abbott a few weeks ago saying, we'll work with One Nation. What are they saying now? The moderates have got to them. Oh, no, we're fighting against One Nation. How's that going to solve your problems, Tony and Angus? I thought they were smart. The only one talking any sense within Liberal Party ranks is Alex Antic. And I'm just, I'm frustrated a little bit, but it's getting to a point. What concerns me, here's what concerns me. This is why I'm so frustrated a little bit. Is if we don't win this next election, when I say we, centre right, whoever that is.
It's done. It's toast.
Well, that's 4 more years. We just had let's say worst case scenario, Jacinta Allen gets in by the skin of her teeth by 1 seat.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen in the next 4 years after that Melbourne welcomes Modi rally? How many more Indian immigrants do you think can come in for the specific purpose of voting ALP?
Yeah.
Are we going to get another million in that next 4 years? At that point, we're looking, 1.5 million former Indian citizens becoming Australian citizens with 90% of them voting for ALP. At that point, Victoria is gone.
Well, on that point, Bob, on that point, are you able to pull up Twitter DM while we're doing the stream? I've flicked you a couple of things via your Twitter on DM. Which some reporting on? No, not in that chat thing. Just DM to yourself to the Conservative.
Yeah. No, sorry, that's chat. Yeah,
okay. If you can grab one of those posts that I've sent you,
which
we
one?
Can play that. Well, you can start at the top. I think there's only 4 of them there. They're only 20 or 30 seconds each or something, and we'll just go through them. And
ABC. I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
So this will outline exactly what you've been discussing and the genuine concern people have about being outnumbered and their votes deliberately being cancelled out by an influx of people coming into the country that Labor has strategically understood that in 80% of cases will vote for them. Now, Patricia Cavalis, this is from the Insiders program. This is Sunday morning on the ABC. That's Patricia Cavalis, obviously flagship host journalist of the ABC, the darling of the left. And she takes herself very seriously. And look at what they publicly admit. This is mask off right now.
Let's play it. All right.
Certainly did. On that multicultural question, I just found that so fascinating. Here we have in Australia about 1 million Indian Australians. In the midst of a debate about multiculturalism versus monoculturalism, the PM just leant right into it, didn't he? He was like, we're a multicultural nation, you belong here. He wants to make all of those Indian Australians his voters, right?
Yeah, well, we are. And I mean, it's sort of a statement of the obvious to a certain extent.
And yet it's been contested.
Yeah, but also there's an electoral advantage there as well for the Prime Minister to bring that diaspora on side. As you say, 1 million Indians in Australia, obviously not all of them have voting rights, but still, it's a hugely important demographic.
Yeah, 38.
Yeah, I saw that. It's and that every Australian. This doesn't apply to just Indians. It could apply to the Muslims in Western Sydney and Western Melbourne. It could apply to the Chinese. And I love the Chinese community, but I don't want so many Chinese coming in that my vote as an Australian now no longer counts. Or they're going to be able to get more Chinese background, Muslim background, Indian background politicians into our parliament. They're then going to favour. They're not going to be Australia first. They're going to be India first. They're going to be Iran first. They're going to be Israel first. They're going to be China first. They could be. Our parliament's no longer reflecting an Australian parliament. We're basically going to become a mini United Nations.
The larger point here is that the government is now admitting, and the ABC journalists are also admitting. They're saying, well, it's obvious.
Well, the government didn't
six...
admit to it. An ABC journalist admit to it, but that's nearly as good.
Yeah, no. But the larger point here is for far too long, this was conspiracy theory. The great replacement theory has no merit. But what we have now is we have an admission that the government of this country, particularly Labor and Anthony Albanese, have decided, as crucial to them being successful in future elections, that because they know they are proving disappointing for broad amounts of our population, the only way they can ensure that they can somehow arrest a dwindling away from them by a supporter base, or at least somehow being 50-50 or influential for them, is they're just saying, now we're just going to bring in these people from overseas and we know they're going to vote for us 8 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
They're admitting this. And to think that that's actually what's taking place is extraordinary, Bob.
Mate,
foreign populations are being brought into the country with the explicit intent of casting votes for those who brought them into the country.
But where are people? That was obvious the last federal election. You remember Tony Burke having a huge citizenship ceremony?
Yeah.
I mean, this has been
who was there with Tony Burke when they won the federal election and was celebrating with him in his electorate? That room was filled with these types of Punjabis and the people wearing the turbans and everything else.
So they're basically what we're saying they're committing, and if you say this too loud, you're probably going to trouble, but I don't care anymore. Basically, they're committing treason.
Yeah, and it's also seditious.
They're selling out Australian interests for other countries' interests, and they're selling out Australia's interests for their own political interests.
You don't like me, and you don't like what I'm doing to you and to your country. So because you don't like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in people from overseas who have got no idea, and they will vote for me because I brought them into your country, and also we're going to give them welfare, and also we're going to acknowledge and accept their university degrees and everything else.
They are the very worst type of people to have in our parliament, right? Hence the importance of why One Nation needs to let us know who their candidates are going to be, because we can't fall for this same bullshit again. I'm too old I don't have enough more time left on this planet to be patient anymore. I want to see my country in the next decade get back to what it was, so that when we hand on the baton to young guys like you, it's going to continue working that way. If it doesn't get there in the next, if Hanson does it, if Albo wins again in 28, if the ALP win again now, in Victoria and Australia, we've got, and we've also got the New South Wales election next year, which I think the ALP will win. So you're going to have again nearly wall-to-wall ALP, and where even where you've got a Liberal government outside Queensland, they're Labor light anyway. The only half-decent government we've got is in Queensland. So if that keeps going, at the other end, that's Albo wins next time, he's got 5 more years. Allen wins, he's got 4 more years. They're going to change the face of Australia even more than what they've changed it already.
It's done. The opportunity is right now to take the bull by the horns and steer it in whichever direction you like. And if they do not do so, and as a result of them not doing so, and capitalizing on an opportunity right now and steering that where it needs to go and harnessing this discontent amongst the Australian population.
Okay,
if they're unable to do so and Albo's successful in 2028, they are toast.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone's
they're done and dusted.
Yeah. Unless you're a hard Marxist Fabian, everyone's done. And even then, if the Muslims get too much control going forward, they're going to kill off them anyway, because that's what they've done in every other country. But I'm getting in a real bad.
But it'll be unforgivable because they weren't able to seize on the opportunity.
Okay, what do you think then? I'll give you a few questions. Here's a hypothetical. I'll give you 2 questions in one. Sorry. So the hypothetical is this: does headquarters of One Nation, are they okay if they just cruise along to this next election and they can get half a dozen candidates in both the lower house and the upper house? Are they okay then with the Jess Wilson government that they can support with the balance of power? Is that all they're after? Now, this is one of the things I used to argue against when I was part of the Libertarians and the Liberal Democrats. Well, it's the old famous Mel Gibson saying, in William Wallace, where he says, you're fighting for the scraps from the table when you should be looking for the actual dinner, something like that. Because all the tribes of Scotland wouldn't come together to fight the English. So we're like that on the right. All the tribes of the right won't come together to fight the ALP. So all we're fighting over is the scraps the ALP are giving us. So maybe Pauline and all them, they're saying, you know what, we're never going to win in Victoria, but if we can win half a dozen seats in the lower house and the upper house, and then we'll have the balance of power over a Jess Wilson government, and we can pull them back to the right. The Libertarians used to argue this thing to me all the time, and I'm going, why don't you just go for government? I mean, why are you relying on a balance of power that might never eventuate? In sport, which I coach, I always teach my players, aim for the highest thing you can. If you don't reach it, you're always going to achieve something significant. If you only range mid-range and you don't reach it, you'll fail. So if all you're aiming for is the balance of power, this was the libertarian policy for 25 years. Where's the libertarians now? They never got close to a balance of power situation. If you aim for government but you miss it, you'll probably have the balance of power, right? So is that the theory that they might be going on? And if you don't think it is, what do you think it is that's happening in with One Nation? Is it they've got too much control in headquarters, or are they? And I can totally understand this because Pauline's had a bunch of people who've done the sabotage on a party, got into Parliament and then left them. Are they more fearful about people sabotaging One Nation than they are about winning government? What's the issue? What do you think the issue might be?
Let's quickly address the first thing. So are people going to be applauding if Jess is successful and she gets up and One Nation will just fall into alignment with her and think, we can split the difference and somehow put some reins on her and steer her in our direction? To tell you the truth, that's unacceptable as well.
No, I know it's unacceptable.
Because Jess was front and center applauding as boldly and vociferously as anyone at the Modi event. She's all in for that as well.
No, I agree.
We're talking about a globalist mindset, a multicultural, everyone's welcome, all cultures are equal, all this other nonsense, instead of a reverence for what Australia is and a determination to reverse course and put the stake in the ground and say we're going there. And that's what we're doing. If you're in opposition, we're going to steamroll the hell out of you, and we're going to show you absolute defiance and not give a care in the world to you, because most importantly, the people are with us and we have a mandate. And that mandate might only be 51%. But 51 in a 100-gun split, you're in front every day of the week anyway.
45% of win your Parliament.
Exactly. So to hell with them. It needs to be a to hell with them attitude.
Okay, but I get that. I agree with you.
Let's
do you think that would be the strategy in One Nation, though, at the moment? Because it's the only thing I can think of that might be going through their heads. And again, I'd love to get Bianca and Warren and whoever else. This guy from West Australia, bizarrely, who's having a crack at me about shit in Victoria. You're on the other side of the country. You don't know what the hell we're going through here in Victoria.
Western Australia is a different country, mate. They're separated from us. Their footy's on too late in the afternoon. No one, they're doing their own thing.
They've got the Golden River from the mining resources. They've got they don't have half the immigration that we've got here. I mean, when you're living through a level living through, then go through it. I don't know whether you heard earlier on, and this is a policy I'd like to see One Nation take on board, especially let's say they get balance of power. One way to resolve this would be to introduce legislation around citizenship and voting. I'm now a big believer. I wasn't so much, but now I am after seeing everything I've saying. You should not be able to vote in an Australian election, state or federal or local, until you can prove you've got 2 generations of Australian born parents. So your parents have to be born in Australia, grandparents have to be born in Australia. Then you can still become a citizen before that, but you can't become a voting citizen. So we know that Australian elections are about Australian people, not about overseas.
You're not wrong. I understand the spirit of the argument, but that is not applicable. And there is no way they could get across the line, because once you are a citizen, then you have the full range of options that all citizens do have. I can meet you in the middle there. You would say that if you've arrived here, your children that you have in this country, they can vote. But that means they've got to be here for 18 years after you've even been here in the first place. And you'll never have the opportunity to vote because you're a recent arrival. But if we want to take back to the 3 generations, that's a plausible argument which could be made. Well, and it's not sellable.
You say it's not sellable. Like you just said, you only need to win 45%. And then you can, as long as you've got power in both houses. I mean, where are our laws made? Our laws are made in Parliament. That's where legislation comes in and laws come from. So
how does Maureen Faruqi keep her job?
No, she doesn't. Piss off, Maureen. Good.
Okay, and what about Ali and several others? Does Penny Wong even keep her job?
No, was she born in Australia? Well, her parents born in Australia.
Does she go back 3 generations? This is what I mean. Like, if we're going to run this litmus test, we are going to fundamentally transform the country.
Mate, you're the one wearing the Australia First hat. You should be embracing what I've just said like that. You should be grabbing it and going, yes, Bob, let's do that. And again, this is why I think we need to have a real – this is where the centre-right party should come together.
Yeah,
we want a conservative-led centre-right republic. What does that constitution look like? What are the laws we want from day one that are going to embrace our history, our heritage, and not just embrace it, but ensure that it survives for hundreds of years? Now, the Roman Empire survived for what, 600 years, maybe longer? The American Empire, if you want to call it that, has now been going for 250 years. Australia's been a country for just over 100. And we still are fighting over what it is to be Australian. Whereas back in the 60s and 70s, we had a pretty good damn idea.
I'm not at all confused. And do you know what? Whenever I go overseas, guess who's not confused about what an Australian is?
People overseas?
Yeah. They know 100%. Like every single time I can be in Southeast Asia, I can be in North America, I can be in Europe. They all know. And not one of them has ever confused somebody who does not look like myself as being an Australian.
No,
it's on site. They know. If I present to them somebody who comes from I don't have to say exactly where, but other regions of the world who are not us, and say that's an Australian, they say no, that's not. I can give them 10 faces and say pick the face of an Australian, 2 foreigners who have never even been here, and they will 9 times out of 10 correctly decide on who that face is out of the 10 that you throw in front of them. And it's undeniable, because I'm not mistaken of who a Thai is or a Japanese person is, somebody from Sudan or
what do most people identify with your country? This is where they identify with Australians, through the Hollywood films they see. Who are the most famous Australians? Mel Gibson, Chris Hemsworth. They're bulky Australian guys with Australian accents. Hugh Jackman's another one. That's who they identify with Aussies. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And before anybody comes on here and starts saying, you're not going to be racist and bigots and all that shit.
Well, I'm not.
I'm pretty confident. I've got no problem, I'll say it again, with immigration, as long as it's balanced and as long as they come in and they share Australian values. We've gone past that now.
Yep.
We're having other nations' flags and national anthems waved in our face, sung in our face. We're told we're not good enough. We're told we've got to accept it or bad luck. And no, we don't have to accept it. I love my country. I love my heritage. I love the fact that we do welcome in other people from our country. But we've got to preserve that, not just for you and me, Ben, but for the new people coming into this country who want to create a better life for their kids. If we just turn Australia into what it is that they've fled from, how is that building a better future for their kids?
Diversity everywhere means there's diversity nowhere.
Exactly. So,
we need a place, and we have to secure a place for ourselves and our children forevermore, because
and that's
our
why
forefathers built the place, and we are here as a result of them being here.
Correct. And we've got to embrace that Union Jack, not because of England, because of what that Union Jack actually represents. The 3 Christian crosses, the Christian culture that actually built this country right from the start. That's a big key onto why Australia was so great and why it could be great again. But if we lose that, what's in the Indian flag? Do we have 3 Christian crosses? What's in the Islamic flag from Iran? 3 Christian crosses? What's in the Chinese flag? 3 Christian crosses? No, there's none of that there. And you can be anti-Christian as you like, but Christianity was the foundation on what this country was built upon.
Do you think it should be a prerequisite for anyone that wishes to serve in government to be a professed Christian, or at least believe in Jesus Christ? Should it be a litmus test?
I actually, no, I don't think that. But I'll tell you what I have put on my policy page.
And nobody's perfect. Of course, there's still going to be sinners, but should they at least acknowledge?
Okay, well, I'll put a bigger question to you, because I've argued this. Should Australia be a non-secular? I get this wrong all the time. Should Australia be a non-secular country? So basically a Christian state, like you have Islamic states in the Middle East. I say yes.
Yes.
Because it defines what our culture is all about.
Yes.
If you see an Islamic state, you know exactly what that's all about. It's about Sharia law and all this sort of shit, the oppression of a lot of women, not in all of them, but in most of them. Actually, no, probably even in the most moderate Islamic states, women still have their rights suppressed more than they would have in any Western nation.
Absolutely. It's not even close.
If we're a Christian nation, it defines who we are.
Yeah.
Now, does everyone have to be a Christian in a Christian nation? No. But if we had a nation that was that state, then our politicians, whether they're Christian or not, would still have to support that concept in that state. So again, I go back to we got to become a republic so we can get this shit right and get a constitution that actually defines what it is to be Australia. Outside a real big thing, I don't trust politicians if they can't deliver something that's authentic and real. If it's more of the same of what we've gone through, it's only a matter of time. What I'll tell you, if it's more of the same what we go through, we'll go through this electoral cycle. One nation will sport the LNP, let's say in Victoria. Jess Wilson maybe do an okay job, but she's got some idiots underneath her. So eventually the electorate will get sick of them, and guess who they're going to vote for yet again? The ALP will come in with their Fabian sort of shit and all that. So we're not really figuring out the problem. We're just
kicking the can down the road.
Exactly. Yeah. So why are we kicking the can down the road? It's about time we argued for something that changes this country significantly for the better. And I'll
got to tear the Band-Aid off, Bob. You've got to tear the Band-Aid 100%.
off. 100%. And mate, could you imagine if you had a centre-right, let's say it was the Liberal. I'll tell you, here's my thing. If I had Angus Taylor, advisor again, if me and him were down the pub, I'd say, Angus, mate, you got to piss off the moderates. Just get rid of them. I said, but then once you piss them off, you've got to get something that will grab attention that you can talk about for 2 years and you can win that argument. I said, mate, my advice would be make Australia a conservative republic. Go to the next election take this away from the ALP. The reason the ALP is so good, they beat the LNP to the punch all the time. What would the ALP do right now if Angus Taylor came out and said, I think we should be a republic. The Liberal Party is going to work to it, and this is the model we're going to put. It's not going to be the ALP model. It's going to be this model. Albo and them would shit their pants over that, because I've got no doubt after 28, Albo's going for a republic. And if we get a Fabian-built republic from the ground up, this country's even in a lot more trouble then. That will be Albo's modern Australia that he wants to get in. So beat him to the punch. Get a conservative-led republic. Who wants Charles as king anyway? Seriously. And becoming a republic, we don't have to leave the Commonwealth. We don't have to get rid of our national flag. We don't have to get rid of our national anthem. We can keep all those things. We can keep our history, our heritage, but we can actually make a model for a brand new, more exciting Australia. Are you telling me that people aren't going to start getting attracted to that? I'll guarantee you, if that's led by a conservative person with a conservative party behind it, I reckon that party would romp in the next election. Romp it in.
Yeah, and a couple of additions.
But everyone thinks I'm wrong.
Well, we're all most likely wrong. We've all been wrong several times a day, just like broken clocks, right? But even they can be correct twice a day as well. So let's not rule ourselves out.
So you're saying I'm only right twice every 24 hours?
No. What I'm saying is people are allowed to be wrong, and it shouldn't condemn them forever. But if they want to be absolutely serious about this and moving in the direction which you just outlined, and detaching ourselves from a secularist ideal of what the future of this country should be, and under the aspiration of being inclusive, which is basically just a Trojan horse of the Fabian. And we have to remember that the symbol of the Fabian is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah. Okay, so one way to go about that would be a policy put forward to the people. They say, vote for us. And I'll tell you one thing, and some people might only vote for them on this one thing. Welcome to country, illegal. No more welcome to country, no more government supported welcome to country. If a private organization wishes to do it, but it's not going to take place in the MCG. It's not going to take place on Anzac Day. It's not going to take place before the cricket. If they want to do it in a park on a weekend of their own volition, by all means, but it's not going to be at massively attended sporting spectacles. And secondly than that,
if we became a republic, why would you need a welcome to country?
Well, exactly right. But before we get there, let's we're baby steps to get to the destination.
No,
as well.
I'll give you bigger baby steps.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Another one is okay. So why are we dealing with the gay Mardi Gras, which is sexually explicit on the streets of Sydney, public indecency, children in the front row? That stuff is not made for kids. So a policy to say. Bedroom. No. They can. We're not about keeping them all in the closet because there's a few.
No, leave it in your bedroom means what goes on in your sexual life stays in the bedroom.
But what it is, it would be Bob. It would be a government policy which says, "Hey, listen, you're still allowed to have it, but it's not going to be on the streets. And guess what? You're going to fund it. And guess what? You're going to do it indoors. So you're going to hire a stadium for yourself. And guess what? SBS and the ABC aren't going to broadcast. And guess what? The Prime Minister's not going to be marching at the front of it with you."
Mate, forgive me for being harsh.
Two policies
you're dealing with the scraps on the table. Look, I would get if I was going that way, I'd get a big thinking group. Obviously, you'd have to get it together with some of the best. We got some. Hey, I figured out how to put up comments here.
Let's go.
Let's see.
Oh, Beck had a question for you as well. As a matter
I'll get that in a minute. Let me finish off on this final thought. If we can get a big group of some of Australia's best minds with the goals of what we're trying to get to, think about what a republic would mean with a new constitution. Yep. You could start addressing our education system. You could start addressing our democracy. How many levels of government we should have? Who should be able to vote? What is the makeup of our society? What is Australian culture? What should our education system be? Should it be state-based or federal-based? You could start bringing in a whole bunch of things. You could start identifying what the Australian flag is. You could put a Bill of Rights in there that would protect the person's right to own a firearm, own the freedom of speech, a whole bunch of different things that you could put in that Bill of Rights. We can make sure that Julian Grant will never, ever be getting a job in Australia ever again. So you can be putting a whole bunch of things. You can be talking about the commitments that Australians politicians that make an oath to go into office are committed to Australian values and Australian interest. You could be putting a whole bunch of things where you get some real input from a whole bunch of people that address a lot of the issues. We should be able to, example, make the most of our resources. Uranium going to India when we can't use it is bloody bullshit.
What do you think about that? We haven't got our own nukes. We're not allowed to use it. They say we've got to lean in this direction. Meanwhile, we're giving it to them, and they are not signatories to the non-proliferation.
No. Your mate Patricia Cavallo has brought this up with the ALP minister, dickhead with glasses. Mm-hmm. And she said, what happens though? She says, we've got commitments that they won't use it for their military.
I've got time for Patricia. I don't agree with her a lot, but I do have time. I've had a laugh with her.
Yeah, well, she made a very good point though. She said, But if our uranium goes towards their domestic use, doesn't that free up their uranium to go towards military use?
Precisely.
Great point. So why aren't we using
They're going
that?
to use it to threaten Pakistan and say, hey, we'll obliterate you because we have enriched uranium to far greater levels than what you do.
Pakistan can have a nuclear military ability.
Yeah.
India can have a nuclear military ability.
But nuke power, the justifications, we had to give it to them because they need nuke power. Why do they need nuke power? Or because their people can't afford all of this energy. So
that means nuclear. That means all the stuff they said last election about nuclear energy being dearer was all bullshit.
Of course. And this is why Bowen's gone missing. This is why they've got a stand-in for Bowen right at the moment. Like, we're not kidding ourselves here. This isn't When Harry Met Sally. This is, we know exactly what's going down. Okay, we'll get to them because, I've got an early start. It's been
so have I, buddy. So we'll make it the end of the night. I think we've had a good say. We'll be plenty more.
Season, so
let's go from top to bottom. Host on soon. That's not me. MS, no. So MS thinks it's a terrible idea about a republic, I think. Well, we respectfully agree to disagree, MS. Fix the country before we declare a republic. My point, MS, is to actually bring about a republic to fix the country. But anyway, we can eat great. We have so many more immediate problems. I think it can fix a lot of those problems. Yeah. Right? So I think he's got a few points here. What are your thoughts, mate? We can change the constitution with a referendum. A referendum, you've got to be careful, for example, on a referendum, how many things you put before the Australian public. Otherwise, it fails. If you put a new constitution with a thing of a republic, the one item, you've got far more chance of it being successful. If you put half a dozen or a dozen, which is what we need, towards a referendum, you're virtually guaranteeing its failure. Most referendums have failed. Declaring a republic won't magically make everyone prouder to be Australian. Well, you've got to go through a process. Again, I will respectfully disagree. Like I just said, if we actually allow this for input over a 3 to 5 year process and people get legitimate input, I actually think that would help unite Australia, because people of Indigenous background, Anglo background, Chinese background, Indian background, we could all come and everyone gets to vote on what our immigration intake should be, what it means to be Australian, what our future should like. And if you don't believe that, when was the last time we got a vote on immigration? So
I'm all good
I love your points, but I disagree.
Yeah, I'm all good for 5 referendums a year. And another thing, why aren't there billboards on every major artery, or at least the largest artery, the biggest freeway in every single capital city in this country, with Pauline pointing to a picture of Albo holding up a sign, immigrants welcome, and Pauline emitting a little blurb, just like a meme picture, would say, we didn't vote for it. Did you vote for this? Did we vote for 1 million people to come into this country?
Well, actually,
and what you do is you put those billboards strategically in the most heavily congested areas where every single morning people are stuck in peak hour traffic, going to work and coming home by the hundreds of thousands. And every single day they're looking up at that picture. They're being driven insane by being stuck in traffic anyway, kept from their family, delayed going to work, delayed getting to the sport team, or whatever it may be. And every single day that ruminates in their mind, and it just makes them aggravated. And they know come election day, that's going to be front and center in their minds. Even if they don't like Pauline, they're going to make this bastard pay for doing these things to them and keeping them stuck in traffic. Mate, that is such an effective way to have a captive audience, and you can't even get that on television with mainstream ads, because you don't know how many people are watching mainstream anymore and who's going to be tuned in at that exact moment. Most people tune off when the ads come on anyway and flick the channel. This is a way to get them and to deliver it.
I agree.
Absolutely rock solid. And you could do dozens of these all across the country, and every month it would just be a different tune with a different spiel. And before you know about it, people have got this locked into their subconscious. They remember it vividly. And come election day, that is going to bear fruit. And that's not so much of a capital outlay for them. They could do it by several million it would cost, but that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket.
Albo's given them the perfect meme for that, by the way. You could take that picture of Albo and Narendra Modi with their hands up in front of the crowd.
When he's in a dress, yep.
Yeah. You in your dress. MS has come back. Good on you, MS. I like the fact that, I don't know whether this is scrolling up. Oh, yeah, it is. It's going the other way. Referendum on radical immigration and citizenship reforms. Yes, It's key how the referendum question is formulated. We can have single issue party just for that, faster, more focused and less baggage. Well, MS, maybe you're younger than me, but I want real solutions to real problems quicker rather than sooner. And I think a republic and a constitution that can address that and every other things. I'm sick of being told it's not possible. I'm going to bang on this now for ages because my country, I believe, is under threat. And the quickest way to fix it, I think, is it can address all of this. It can address, and I do think Australians, look, how many Australians really have sympathies or ties in, like I used to have, when Queen Elizabeth died, that impacted me a lot. It was like losing a member of the family. You know, she'd been a part of my life all the way through, not for a negative. Most of her life was a positive. Others will argue differently. But for, I think, a lot of people my generation, it was like losing a member of the family. But once she died, my connection, I never liked Charles. I mean, what sort of person divorces a lady like Princess Di in the first place? That automatically gives you questions. But Charles always struck me as a bit of a twat. And he's a twat now. I mean, and he's indoctrinated his kids with this net zero nonsense.
Well, Harry's not his.
We don't really... so we just don't need that tie. That's England's monarchy. Australia can still be part of the Commonwealth, but I just think it's something. Look, we keep talking about what it is to be Australian. Surely, if we had a republic and we're trying to define what that republic would look like, how people would vote, what people would vote, who's the people that we get in our parliaments, that could rally the whole country about what this country is going to look like. For the first time in my lifetime and in your lifetime, we're voting for what it would be to be actually Australian and what Australian is all about. And that would actually give people from the left, the right, and the middle to have their impact. Whatever model comes out of that comes out of it. But if it's conservative-led, there's a chance we get a great model for a republic. My concern would be, and MS, you might not want that. I will guarantee you, if Albo gets elected in 28, the republic comes on the agenda and he will introduce a referendum for a republic designed by the Fabians. They've tried it once, they'll try it again. And this time, I think it'll get up.
Quick question for you, Bob. Somebody on X has put a question to you, mate. What do you think? Yeah, mate. They flicked it to me via DM to put to you. So they're tuning in. What do you think is the major influence to shifting the Overton window to One Nation? And how does a non-aligned public demonstration harm the vote for One Nation?
Is that from Beck, is it?
No, it's not from Beck, but Beck has thrown another question out there.
Let's deal with
sour grapes in your direction. No, but we'll get to this. So what do you think is the major influence to shifting the Overton window to One Nation? And how does a non-aligned public demonstration harm the vote for One Nation?
Yeah, I don't think. So from what everyone calls middle Australia, right? So people who go to work, take the kids to sport, do all this. I don't think for example, demonstrations and marches make a big difference. To be honest, I think your candidates, your policies, and what you argue that. I hate to say it, that 30-second impact on the news is one that you get. Honestly, I did. Whenever there's a march, whether it's the pro-Palestinian ones or whether it's the Australian marches, whatever, I go out on a weekend. I go to all the sports where all the parents are, all the people who got things. They're not at marches. They're watching their kids play sport. They're taking their kids out to Finland. What do they do with the weekend before they go back to their work, where they've got to pay for their rent and the bills and the food and the cost of living? As the old political thing, it's all about the economy, stupid. So you've got to intertwine. And this is why I think it's really important that One Nation have some legitimate people to be your leader, to be your treasurer, to be these things. So we know they can actually if One Nation get in and the place is a financial mess after 2 years, they're getting voted out. And then you're bringing in the ALP. So you've got to have some serious economic and political policy to go along with this desire to have some change. I think that's far more powerful. So when is the most important time of any cycle? It's leading into an election. And this is my point right from the very start with One Nation. You're less than 20 weeks out. You should have your team in place in the lead up to this election, ready to go with clear policy that people can support and want to vote for. You can have all the marches in the street you like. If you don't have that, you're not getting in, and you're then not putting change. This is where the ALP is very good. Look at the ALP last election. They went in with all these promises. They were going to promise reducing your energy bills by $275. They never did it.
He bought the votes. He bought the votes of people for $275.
And
$275. You're willing to sell yourself out for that?
And he's selling us a $5 tax reduction, $5 a week tax reduction.
Disgraceful.
It's $250. So,
screams of desperation.
Well, but it works. And then when he gets in,
because people were desperate.
No, I know. But then when he gets in, he then impacts the agenda, the policy platform that he doesn't tell you about. That's the problem with it. So, you can, like I say, God bless everyone who wants to march and demonstrate. I just don't know whether that's the way to bring about the change we want.
Okay. So drill down into that question. What was the major influence to shifting the Overton window towards One Nation?
Well, I think it's already shifted.
Did Beck and MFA or Scotty Challen and his mob, do these grassroots uprisings where people are drawing attention to serious issues and grievances the Australian population have, although they may be marginalised, although they may not be in significant number, the things that they've been doing, is that assisted One Nation to be able to garner and gather support and also appeal to a broader amount of people by advancing this Overton window and creeping it open just fractionally more incrementally? Do they have any? Does Beck and Co have any responsibility? Should they be given any credit for assisting One Nation?
Okay, you're going to get me in trouble with Beck here. Listen, eternal credit to people like Beck and Scott who are doing everything they're trying. But my answer is I don't think it moves the needle much. Might move it a bit, minutely. I'll tell you what moved the needle to One Nation was those, and you can go back, look back at the timeline, when the Liberals convinced ALP to go back to Canberra after the Bondi massacre and put in place those hate speech laws.
There you go.
Everyone deserted. So there's your way to move the Overton window. Just keep highlighting how bad the LNP and ALP are, but have a legitimate alternative. And that's my argument about this Victorian state election. The Overton window's moved. Everybody is over the major parties. But you've got to have something they can get behind. We can have all the marches we like, but if in the next 10 weeks there's still no candidates, no policies, no leadership, they're not winning. ALP will get back in again.
Well, what do you think about this then? So Beck and Co are going to do their thing, I think, the end of August. It might be the 30th off the top of my head, but we can clarify that later on. So they're going to do national marches once again, attended by people numbering in the tens of thousands, I suspect, if not maybe more than that, which is great for them. Because once again, they aren't given any favorability or traction or promotion by the mainstream or by the two major parties whatsoever. In fact, people are asked not to attend because if they do attend, they can either have a projectile thrown at their head and the police will not arrest the culprits even if it takes place in view of the police. But more importantly than that, they can be splashed all across social media, have accusations put on them that they're Nazis, this, that, and everything else. They can lose their profession or their standing in their local community, whatever it may be. So there can be repercussions. But having said all that, what if Beck, through what's going to take place in late August, is able to impress one thing upon all of the attendees, and that is, here is a website. We need everyone on there. Just, you don't have to share all the information because people would be unwilling to do so for obvious reasons. But just to tick yes or no, would you be committed to, if I tell you the day before the election, this is our candidate, every single person in attendance at all of our marches we've been doing, will you allow me to tell you which way we're going to vote? And therefore we now have a voting block, and that voting block could be in the hundreds of thousands, maybe, perhaps. Let's wait to see what significance it could hold. But then if they were able to achieve that, Bob, right now, Cavalis and Co on Insiders and Elbow and Plibisek and Wong and Co, they're saying we're going to bring in Indians because we can utilize them as a voting bloc. If Beck is able to harness a voting bloc and say to her peoples, hey guys, it's never the perfect option, but this is the least worst option out of all the options afforded to us. So this is the way we're going to go. And if she can somehow convey that to One Nation or whoever it may be, tell you what, I've got 100,000 here, and if I say go, guess what? Election day, they're going to be there, and they're going to vote for you guys, and that's going to give you a little bit of surge in early polling, and even we might go to pre-polling, as a matter of fact. We may even do mail-in, and that's going to indicate to broader Australia when the media reports, well, what's it looking like? Where are these numbers going? Well, One Nation might have surged ahead because they just had an influx of 100,000 that came to them on this day and decided to go bang. There is serious power there. Now, it may not be of magnitude of something much larger, but would you agree that if she is able to harness something like that, that is a little bit of a powerful position and a would-be reward for effort, Bob? We're not saying it is likely to happen, but if it was able to happen.
Okay, that's a very long question.
Yeah, but you get what I'm laying out.
I get your gist, and I'm going to come back with something much simpler in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I wax lyrical a little bit.
Yeah, no, and sorry, and I hope I'm obviously Beck's listening, and I don't want to denigrate what she's done.
Yeah.
I watched. I didn't go, but I did watch that night, so you can get. And this is where I think Rukshan is good, and others. So there was about 3 live streams.
That's an episode. Beck and Rukshan on the same episode with conservative Bob.
Yeah. So I watched.
Live listeners.
So I watched a lot of the live streams, and she might not want to admit this. And I'm offering this as advice, but I think the mistake, and there could have been a lot of good for that, but the mistake was it was too closely aligned to NSN, and a lot of people just aren't going to cop it. So that did a lot of damage to the brand of that, and that's one of the reasons. For example, Scott Challen gave me for moving away because he could see what it was. And I know there's a bit of acrimony between those groups, whatever. So I think it was a missed opportunity. Yeah. I think that was a missed opportunity. And I noticed, and Beck, if you're listening, I understand you're a loyal friend. But if you really, people have got to sort of put their loyalties and their friendships, if they're talking about the greater good for Australia, sometimes those loyalties and friendships you got to put aside. So, for example, Nick Fuentes. I find Nick Fuentes entertaining.
Leave my friend Nick Fuentes alone. Do not speak bad of the Emperor of America.
This is a compliment for him. But, for example, the last week, his commentary on Candace Owens and the theories behind, Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk, Nick Fuentes has been brilliant. He's been so good. So there's times I will disagree. And people will disagree with me too.
He's bloody smart, mate.
He's a very smart guy. I don't think anyone denies that. But he also has tied himself in. It's funny, his comments about the NSN in Australia, he's quite critical of it, right? He's even quite critical of some of his groppers. But Nick Fuentes is also confusing at the same time. 1 minute he's saying vote Democrat, the next minute he's saying if someone who's a Republican is going to push back against this, then I'll vote for a Republican. Because he's pissed off with all the Madami in New York and all that sort of shit. And these communist link ones that he's now taken over the Democrat Party. So he sort of does waver a little bit. So, but my point is you've got to be careful. Again, you're going towards Middle Australia. What decides the elections? Middle Australia. So I saw on these things, they were interviewing people as they were going to these rallies or what. As soon as they saw people going up there with the Nazi themes, and there was, just being honest, people turned around and walked away. So you then taint what you're trying to do with that connection. So it just depends. You talked about the over the window. That over the window is only open for sort of short period of time. Will everyone that's registered for those votes have let's say 30% moved away, 40% moved away? You might put that out there. You're not going to get the whole 100,000. 100,000 is not a lot to move the political needle when you distribute those across the country, for example. 100,000 is really not going to do anything in the different elections. In the different electorates, you might have anything up to 500,000 voters in the bigger ones, right? So 100,000 is not a huge amount. So it's got to be, again,
it's a drop in the ocean.
Exactly. So it's got to be something that appeals to Middle Australia. So God bless Beck. God bless Scott Challen. God bless anybody, even those, I hate to say this, even God bless those who put their time in on the left, who I think they're doing the right thing to advance this country, though I would vehemently argue against them. There was a video. I can agree with people I disagree vehemently with. So there was a video the other day. Blair Cottrell, right? Now he's a prominent person within what was the NSN, and he made a really good tape about.
Could he come on the show? Would you have Blair on the show?
I'd have Blair on the show.
He's not a member.
Well, no one really can be these days, can they? Because of the hate.
No, but even back then, I think there was a little. He may have been friendly, but there was some distinction. So just let's assume he was not a literally bona fide and dressing up in all black and doing that.
No, but
come on.
Let's be fair. No, just hear me out on my answer. Let's be fair, Dinkin. Blair's expressed views that are definitely that way, so that's not a thing. Could he come on? Yeah, mate, I'll talk to anyone. But what I don't want to do is like what happened with Sam Newman, where Blair came on and then he had Thomas Sewell right next to him. I deal with people unless I've arranged it one-on-one like we're doing here, and we can have a discussion. There's some stuff there'll be stuff that I push back on against Blair, but there'll be stuff I push back on against Angus Taylor or thing. I mean, I think the more people that say, I'm willing, this is the shit I don't like with Tommy Robinson. You know, you've got Andrew Bolton, Piers Morgan that paint Tommy Robinson for being one thing, but there's also people on the woke right that say he's a Zionist because he supports Israel. If Tommy Robinson wanted to come on my program, I'd welcome him. If Blair Cottrell would want to come on and have a legitimate discussion, I'd welcome him. On
his own, without Tom dropping in. Yep, cool.
Okay. So things like that. I mean, cool. I do think people like you and me have got to be careful because of the laws in Australia now. You have those hate speech laws that ban certain parties. Is it a crime? If you look in the legislation, it can be a crime to promote those parties these days. If they've been banned, they've banned the NSN. So I don't particularly at this point in my life want to be going to jail or losing my company because I'm doing all that sort of thing.
I like self-preservation. I've got a life to live, man.
The bigger thing in front of us is this coming Victorian state election. I can't help but keep going past that. We're 20 weeks away. We've got to get rid of this. If we can get rid of this ALP government, whether it's One Nation or Jess Wilson, the LNP, that sends a powerful message across Australia that the ALP aren't for this country and its future.
It makes it okay to vote for them.
Yes.
It makes it okay for everyone else. So they should be throwing the kitchen sink at it to try to do it. Yeah.
And the LNP and the One Nation should be working together. If the LNP do not, and One Nation vice versa, if they do not work a preference deal between each other, then neither party is Australia first.
You might be surprised. I'm not saying you will be. Who knows? Time will tell, but
nothing surprises me in politics.
There are some things where people are trying to desperately impress upon the decision makers that this would be the right course of action to take because of exactly the reasons you've outlined.
Like blind Freddie could see that. No, Beck, have you given me Beck's question? Because we've spoken a lot about Beck.
Sorry. Yeah. And also because you mentioned that, I was like, wait a second. Is because the person who posed the question about the Overton window stuff, One Nation, they were not Beck, and I absolutely assure you, and they weren't one of her people at the MFA per se. An independent individual who put forward the question. So, here's one. This is why Beck put out something last year. We marched to end mass migration. Since then, things have only gotten worse. If we want to see the quality of life improve in Australia, we must stop migration, start remigration, save the date, and all that stuff. You've responded to that on X, which is your right, and good on you, Bob, for getting involved, at least in the battle arena of ideas, because that takes balls, bro. And you've responded, quote, just what we need in Victoria just a month before the election, with polls showing that we are finally getting to rid ourselves of this putrid ALP government. Absolutely agreement with that. Beck is going to give Jacinta Allen, the ALP, the perfect vehicle to attack One Nation just before the polls open. I hope you're across this polling. Wait a second. Okay, so I'll make my commentary after this. And you've finished up with, I hope you're across this, Pauline Hanson. You've tagged in Pauline, Malcolm, Warren, and Bianca.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying there. So by Beck throwing this spanner into the works this late, according to you, it is going to be perceived as a spanner in the works and give One Nation's opposition a free rein to come and then once again associate them with
the media,
whoever.
The media are gonna align that with One Nation, and they're gonna pillory One Nation over it. And what's the date? August 18th. Did you say?
August the 30th. The 30th.
Okay, August
It's
30th.
30th.
So leading into the November election.
Yeah.
So I couldn't. Sorry, Beck. I'll stand by that. I just couldn't think the timing could be worse. I want to get rid of the ALP government. It's crucial, and I don't care. Look, I do care. I'd rather have a better government, the LNP, but anything is better than the ALP. And if we pillory One Nation so much that it loses support, there's a very big chance we get the ALP and Jacinta back in.
Right.
Because I don't know whether there's enough confidence to get the LNP up by itself. I think the ALP, if it was a straight contest between the LNP and ALP will win. If we can maintain the vote for One Nation, then you can get One Nation and a partnership between One Nation and LNP. That's the only way I see it doing it. And then maybe through One Nation, we can, like I said before, start bringing the Liberals back to what was a conservative position, maybe. Look, don't underestimate, which is what I think you're heading to before, Ben, is the desire of politicians to want to gain and then hang on to power.
Exactly.
If you got the LNP as the majority or minority government with one thing, but One Nation then hold the balance of power in the upper house, LNP are going to do deals that keep them in power with One Nation. One Nation basically can ask for whatever they want.
If it's likely that One Nation are going to make serious inroads and possibly detach both from their, lockhold on the system here in the country, I don't think it's unreasonable at all to assume that they would join forces together to prevent One Nation being able to become ascendant in any way if it would impact them long term.
Resist the ALP and LNP.
So damn straight, they're old friends. Look at the Winter's Ball.
No, I get that.
It's all fanfare, but
no, I get that. But if the LNP really want to get government, they'd make a deal with the One Nation in some way or form. If the LNP want to lose more members and get ALP a fourth term of another 4 years, so that'll be 16 years of ALP government in Victoria.
Far out.
Write us off. Then make that deal with the ALP. If you do
I can't take it. Yeah.
No, if the LNP is stupid enough, and I don't put this beyond them, by the way, to make some sort of deal where they'll preference One Nation last, they're just signing their death knell. They're signing the death knell of this state, this city. Honestly, mate, seriously, if they did that, I hate to say this, after 40 odd years of being in Melbourne, I would actually, for the first time in that time, give serious consideration, do I want to stay in Victoria? Because I could just see where it's going. And I'm not too sure I want to be around for that. Would I be better off getting out and spending my last decade or so elsewhere where I can just get on with life and just enjoy my time? But I don't want to go there. Could they seriously
should everyone move to Tasmania, take over the joint?
That's worse.
Everyone move to Tassie, take over the joint within 1 or 2 elections, and then vote to have your own sovereignty and secede from the mainland.
Well, I think probably a better chance is to come your way, Queensland.
Yeah, well,
we're
the right ones here. Honestly, I want the right ones here. I'd be very happy with that. I'd be welcoming those. And the thing is, it's cost prohibitive for most, and the cost of living, particularly on the Gold Coast, is outrageous. And to get into the housing market, most people, they're going to be behind the 8 ball with that. But it would be phenomenal to make this joint, the Texas combined with Florida of Australia, zero income tax, First Amendment, Second Amendment enshrined in the state constitution, and a big 2 middle fingers to the national government if they try to impose upon us what they're trying to do in Marxist Melbourne and Western Sydney and all the other stuff. This remains the final bastion. And this is the place where Australians can be Australian forevermore. And if they want to step to us and step across that border, they're going to have a fight in their hands.
I'll come up your way.
They'll be repelled with prejudice.
I'll come up your way and we'll start to form the Republic of Queensland. We'll secede.
I just want to go jet skiing, mate. I just want to go jet skiing every day. Why can't they just, let's get this country back on track? No, but Bob, good on you. Good on you for at least outlining your position to Beck. She will probably disagree, but that's fine. there's an argument to be made there, and there's also common ground. And I don't think it's taken personally. I think you can both understand that, both arguments are valid somewhat, and there's a medium somewhere there. It's how do you find common ground? And because you've got a wiser head, you've seen things come and go over the course of years. And youthful exuberance is youthful exuberance, and it dissipates over time, and then wisdom becomes, and also an acceptance of what is able to be done and what cannot be done, and what would work against us and what can help us. So yeah, right there. But it's been late, Bob. I know you got to bail.
No, I don't have to. I'll give you one last comment we just got coming because I find it amusing.
Let's go.
From James. He obviously doesn't live in Melbourne because it's freezing down here. But a grown man wearing a blue hoodie. They're now attacking my dress sense. I love my hoodies. What's wrong with a hoodie? Can't a grown man wear a hoodie?
Wait a second. What's his name? James. Is it
James.
On X, or where do you ask the question?
Yeah, it's from X.
Okay, I'm going to put him on blast. Who is this mofo? Let's go.
James, grown man wearing a blue hoodie. Actually,
What's his handle? What's his handle? James who?
Oh,
let's go. Let's name drop. No, we're not bringing hate your way, James, but I want to have a look here, mate. Are you taking the piss? What are we doing?
Does it show his handle? I don't think it shows.
A grown man. Is that in the chat for the live video on X? If so, I can find it. Bear with me.
All right, good. Find out. And who cares?
Or is it a reply? Is it in the reply for your live video, or was it a comment on something else?
Well, I've just got a comment in my software here for the thing. I'm just looking it up. Hold on. James, mate, at least I don't have blonde hair with pink rinse.
Wait, so is that picture of an emoji character looking up with the cartoon face, is that his profile picture on X, is it?
Apparently. So he's a bot.
Oh, well, Labour are doing their best to upset you, I'm guessing.
Mate,
grey man wearing a blue hoodie, but yeah, do you know what? What if it was a green hoodie? Would that be cool?
Grey hoodie. I wear my grey hoodie.
Is the issue, James, is the issue with the hoodie or that it's blue?
Well, here's the thing. Look, what James probably doesn't understand, I'm a sports coach. My club is the Warriors. So I go to training and all that during the day. So there's our logo, Warriors. So when I take the kids for training, I wear my hoodie. Sorry,
the
James.
Waverley Vikings or something was that? Was it the Waverley Vikings?
No, it's the War. We call ourselves the Templar Warriors. We got that Christian connection in the Crusades, mate.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not too sure why you'd be bothered about what I'm wearing.
Christian. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do to resolve this issue with James, because he took exception to you wearing a blue hoodie, and don't worry about the haters, Bob. The haters out there, there's hate watchers. Do you know what? They love you. They love to hate you. They hate to love you. What we're going to do is let's hit up Senator Babbitt. Hey, Senator Babbitt, Ralphie boy. We're going to hook Bob up here, my man. We're going to hook Bob up. What we're going to do, we're going to take one of the Australian flags, which we've got plenty of. Let's send it off to a seamstress, and let's sew and fashion that into a robe for Bob. So when Bob next arrives on screen, we're going to it's going to be a robe with a hood, Bob. Let's make the Australian flag turn into a robe, and it's going to be like your own version of an Australian kimono that you wear on stream.
James and others should be a bit grateful, actually, because I could just come on here, wear a Bond singlet and show my gut. The hoodie covers up a little bit. Look, when you get to, I guarantee you this thing, which you'll find out, when you get to 63 and you've lost all your hair and all that sort of thing, and you just don't have the youthful looks you used to, you know what you don't worry about too much? Is your appearance. So I'm not going to make any apology. And I couldn't care what James thinks, whether I wear a blue hoodie, because right now in Melbourne, it's bloody freezing, and this keeps me nice and warm. So on that note, mate, he's
lit a fire under you. That was a little bit of
a... No, he hasn't lit any fire. Don't care.
Hey, James, what I'm wondering, Bob, if someone is going to contribute a comment, he's wasted his time on that. We've just had a little bit of just tongue-in-cheek bullshit with that as well, James. If the brain in the skull is working and firing on all cylinders, why don't you put a legit question to Bob and he'll respond in kind, mate?
Too late. You can do that Thursday at 6 o'clock because it's 10:30.
Adios, senoritas.
So we're going to finish up here, mate. So we'll finish off with James and my blue hoodie. Thank you, James. But I don't really care. So for
Can we finish
everyone,
off with the Lord's Prayer, Bob? Oh, and say good day to the dog as well.
I will say good day to JJ. Come here, buddy. I'll tell you what we'll finish off with is a reading, because I haven't done this for a week now.
Proverbs
so on my daily
daily
live,
devotionals.
well, yeah, Mum gave to this me when I was in my 20s, and
Very
in
good.
my daily live streams, I read out one, but I haven't done a daily live stream because work's so busy at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you one. You can give me, here we go, Ben. You can give me your thoughts on it. I actually love doing this. Most times there is a thing. So this is God reprimands his people. There you go, appropriate. Isaiah 1:10 through 20. Even the most spectacular of religious festivals and religious observations can be a sham. Very appropriate. God wants evil to be eradicated and justice to rule. Jerusalem, your rulers and your people are like those of Sodom and Gomorrah. Listen to what the Lord is saying to you. Pay attention to what our God is teaching you. He says, do you think I want all these sacrifices you keep offering to me? I have had more than enough of the sheep you burn as sacrifices and of the fat you fine animals. I'm tired of the blood of bulls and sheep and goats. Who asked you to bring me all this when you came to worship me? Who asked you to do all this tramping about in my temple? It's useless to bring your offerings. I'm disgusted with the smell of the incense you burn. I cannot stand your new moon, festivals, your Sabbaths, and your religious gatherings. They are all corrupted by your sins. I hate your new moon festivals and holidays. They are a burden that I am tired of bearing. When you lift your hands in prayer, I will not look at you. No matter how much you pray, I will not listen, for your hands are covered with blood. Wash yourselves clean. Stop all this evil that I see you doing. Yes, stop doing evil and learn to do right. See that justice is done. Help those who are oppressed. Give orphans their rights and defend widows. Oh, the Lord says, now let's settle the matter. You are stained red with sin, but I will wash you as clean as snow. Although your sins are deep red, you'll be as white as wool. If you will only obey me, you will eat the good things the land produces. But if you defy me, you are doomed to die. I, the Lord, have spoken. Well, that's pretty appropriate.
Praise the Lord, amen.
Praise the Lord. So we got to stop sinning in this nation. Got to turn back to the big fella up there. Good way to finish. So we might do that each time, Ben. And the days I'll start off with a saying out of it's very interesting. I've read a few passages out of it, and nearly every time, and even like that, you can find passages there. It actually really relates to what I was going to speak to. So I don't know whether that's just fate or whether it's the big guy having an impact, but I find it
might be fate, Bob. You don't know how I found out about you, Bob. And you don't know who was watching you, and who said to me, "Hey,
have a look at this guy." Who was it? Come on, tell me. You can't leave that hanging.
There's always next week, but there's some people that you would never imagine caught wind of you some time ago, and they might even be people of a similar demographic to yourself, and even more advanced in years than yourself. And these are people that are household names in this country.
Oh, right.
At least one of them was. And
right. Is he loaded? Get him on to me if they are.
He's got some boats and some mines and a couple of other things.
What, not Clive Palmer?
Well, who knows?
Tell him to get on to me. I've got a project I want to get up in Victoria to help save it. I need someone with some backing. Get him on to me. Anyway, mate, we'll leave it there. What I'll finish off with is
the point was there that the Lord is watching out for you, Bob.
Well, let's hope so. I think he's watching out for all of us if we're being fair.
Damn right he is. We're his creation. We're his children.
Absolutely. And this country,
love everybody, we hate no one, and we hope to be better tomorrow than we were today.
And this country was built on those three crosses of the Lord, not of England. So we should keep getting back to building on it. Anyway, mate, good night. God bless you. God bless. God bless you. God bless your kids. God bless your grandkids. God bless your pets.
How about God bless Australia?
How
about
I'm
God
about
bless
to come
Australia?
to it. I always finish off with that. I got a point. And God bless that flag in this country. So that's right. I always finish off with that, Benny. Give me a chance, mate.
I know. We're having fun.
We are. Anyway, maybe see you Thursday. Remember 6 o'clock. See if we can get the four of us on together. That'd be fun. I'll send you a reminder tomorrow.
I might figure out something, actually. I'll try to drag someone in.
Oh,
We'll
that'd
see
be
how we
interesting.
go. We'll see
All
how
right,
we
mate.
go.
I'm
Bye,
going.
Bob.
I've got to get up early. Good night. See you, everyone.
Bye, Bob.